Chapter 10-11. It turns out that this kid has this idea. Yishiwen saw this scene, and the corners of his mouth couldn't help but smile. Before the 10th round began, Yishiwen told him that if he encountered people such as the poisonous young master and the flaming young master, then the best way was to surrender. Especially if he encountered the poisonous young master and Crocodile's shadow, then he had to surrender. They all had a grudge against Yishiwen. If he encountered them, it was best to surrender directly without any hesitation. Otherwise, he would be severely injured by them. But who knew that after Bai Hanmo entered the arena, he had no intention of retreating? Initially, Yishiwen and Yao Qian were worried. But when Yishiwen saw this scene, he was relieved. It turned out that Bai Hanmo had such an idea. The most difficult thing to deal with the poisonous young master was his poison technique. As long as the opponent was contaminated by his poison, even if it was just a little bit, the opponent would be quickly corroded. Not even the bones would be left. This was the most difficult thing to deal with the poisonous young master. Even the top geniuses had to be careful of the poisonous gas that came out of nowhere when fighting against the poisonous young master. Only Yishiwen was an exception. His divinity completely isolated the poisonous young master's poisonous gas, rendering the latter's poisonous gas helpless. Hence, the poisonous young master was completely restrained. Although Yishiwen didn't know what method Bai Hanmo used, it was obvious that the martial technique he cultivated could effectively resist the erosion of poisonous gas. Even if it was only for a short while, it was enough to restrain the poisonous young master completely. Without that terrifying poison technique, the deterrence of the poisonous young master would obviously be reduced sharply, and he would no longer be so terrifying. Bai Hanmo was not an ordinary Transcendent Realm 8th level peak expert. He could definitely compete with the average Transcendent Realm 9th level expert. So, in any case, he was more than enough to protect himself. Thinking of this, Yishiwen immediately felt relieved and explained to Yao Qian next to him. Yao Qian, who was still very nervous, was slightly relieved after hearing Yishiwen's explanation. This brat! She was initially afraid that Bai Hanmo would come out. If he came out in the arena, even if they flew over, it would be too late to save him. Sure enough, as Yishiwen expected, Bai Hanmo launched a counterattack almost immediately. The long sword instantly slashed out a white waterfall. The sword light pierced the sky and went straight to the poisonous young master's face. In an instant, the entire sky seemed to be pierced. Damn it! The poisonous young master's face was abnormally ugly. At this time, he still understood why Bai Hanmo dared to stay and fight against him. After all, in the past few rounds of the competition, he was known as the opponent that no one wanted to meet the most. It was not only because he was strong, but also because his attacks were ruthless. Almost no one could withstand the poisonous gas. There was even someone who surrendered a little too late. Half of his body had been corroded by the poisonous gas. He was a Transcendent Realm 8th level expert. In the face of such a fierce person, how could anyone be willing to meet him? Most of the time, they would shatter their nameplates and surrender before the fight even started. Unexpectedly, Bai Hanmo was not afraid of his poisonous gas. It was like seeing a replica of Yishiwen. No, in comparison, it was Yishiwen who had yet to grow up. When facing Bai Hanmo, it was almost like facing Yishiwen's sense of crisis and suffocation. If such a person were to grow up, he would almost be the next Yishiwen. One Yishiwen already made him feel like he was sitting on pins and needles. If there was another one, he would not be able to live anymore. If he didn't eradicate the two, he would have to live under the shadow of the two for the rest of his life. Seeing Bai Hanmo attacking again, he was furious as if he was provoked. He immediately launched a poisonous palm print. Boom! 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 The white stripe and the green poisonous palm print collided fiercely in midair, constantly making a loud roar. What was a little surprising was that Bai Hanmo, who originally thought that he would not be the poisonous young master's opponent, did not fall into a disadvantageous position. Instead, Bai Hanmo repeatedly attacked Bai Hanmo. Everyone was in an uproar, especially those who paid attention to this battle. They originally thought they would see another battle of surrender. Unexpectedly, Bai Hanmo did not surrender. On the contrary, he fought with great vigor. Damn it, I must tear you into pieces! The poisonous young master couldn't defeat Bai Hanmo for a long time. Although everyone could see that his strength was higher than Bai Hanmo, he couldn't defeat Bai Hanmo in a short time. This made him feel that he had lost face in the flourished Cloud Sea region. Clang! Bai Hanmo rushed forward again, pointing his sword straight at the poisonous young master's shoulder. Go to hell! The poisonous young master didn't dodge at all. He directly covered it with his palm. The terrifying palm force quickly collapsed a large area of the air. Bai Hanmo thought that Bai Hanmo would turn around to resist. Who knew that Bai Hanmo did not dodge and directly stabbed with his sword? When the poisonous young master reacted, it was too late. The long sword in Bai Hanmo's hand had directly pierced into the poisonous young master's shoulder. If the poisonous young master didn't dodge in time, the sword would have pierced his throat. Puff! The long sword pierced into the flesh, and a blood flower bloomed directly. It was poignant and brilliant. Ah! The poisonous young master suddenly felt pain, but he didn't withdraw his palm force. He directly slapped Bai Hanmo's body. Although Bai Hanmo's body glowed with a white light, offsetting most of the force, he was still directly slapped away. How dare you hurt me! How dare you hurt me! The poisonous young master's eyes were red. He kept roaring like a wounded beast. At this time, he was close to madness. Hee, so what if I hurt you? Bai Hanmo sneered, biting the blood stain at the corner of his mouth. How can this kid be so reckless? When Yao Qian saw Bai Hanmo being slapped away, she suddenly exclaimed. Her delicate pretty face was full of worry. In her heart, Bai Hanmo was still the little follower who followed behind her. The child who called her sister Yao sweetly. She was already nervous when she saw Bai Hanmo fighting so desperately. Initially, Yishuan meant that Bai Hanmo could at least retreat unscathed. She was slightly relieved. Who knew that Bai Hanmo would not stop while he was ahead? He even wanted to exchange blows with Bai Hanmo. It's okay. This kid knows his limits. Yishuan looked at Bai Hanmo and said. But in his heart, he thought that such a fierce battle might not be a bad thing for Bai Hanmo. In his opinion, Bai Hanmo's talent might even be higher than Crown Prince Crocodile and others. Although Yishuan didn't know what kind of martial technique Bai Hanmo cultivated, judging from the effect, it was definitely not an ordinary martial technique since it could easily resist the poisonous young master's poison. What Yishuan lacked was such experience. In such a tough battle, it was not impossible to ensure self-preservation. Yishuan didn't know how many such miserable battles he had fought since he started his career. It was nothing at all. Before the crowd could recover from the shock, the long sword in his hand directly tore apart a white light and rushed to the front of the poisonous young master. It really seemed that he would not stop until he was dead. Boom! 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 Bai Hanmo became braver as he fought. The long sword in his hand was getting faster and faster. On the contrary, the poisonous young master on the other side was at a loss. Bai Hanmo was not afraid of death. However, this was the poisonous young master's weakness. Since the poisonous young master started his career with poison technique, no one was not afraid of his poison. Hence, he was always the one attacking others. Except for the freak Yishuan, who was defeated miserably, no one could stop his poison technique. Now, he encountered Bai Hanmo, a guy like him. Bai Hanmo was not afraid of his poison at all. The poisonous young master's poison technique was greatly reduced at this time. He could not threaten Bai Hanmo at all. Without the biggest scruples, Bai Hanmo kept attacking. On the contrary, the poisonous young master, who had never fought such a tough battle, was a little timid. Damn it, go to hell! Finally, the poisonous young master was completely enraged by Bai Hanmo. His strength was far above Bai Hanmo. Even without the poison technique, his real strength was above Bai Hanmo. As the saying goes, the arrogant are afraid of the reckless, and the reckless are afraid of the reckless. The poisonous young master was stunned by Bai Hanmo's reckless attack just now. Hence, he was at a complete disadvantage. At this time, he finally recovered. After being thoroughly enraged by Bai Hanmo, he no longer cared about anything else and directly blasted at Bai Hanmo. Puff! Puff! The two sides fought again. Bai Hanmo's long sword directly tore a huge wound in the poisonous young master's lower abdomen. However, Bai Hanmo was directly slapped by a palm. A huge poisonous palm print appeared on his chest. Boom! 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 Both sides didn't care about anything else. After exchanging over 100 moves, they still didn't care about anything else. It was either you die or I die. Both sides were already in a sorry state. Bai Hanmo's body was full of poisonous palm prints. Blood kept spilling from his mouth. He was in a sorry state. However, the poisonous young master was not much better. Bai Hanmo stabbed holes all over his body. Although they were not big, they looked like a hornet's nest. I want you to die! The poisonous young master roared. The poisonous gas in his body spewed out continuously. Boundless power was brewing in his body. Hee, you want to play? I'm not going to play with you anymore. At this time, unexpectedly, Bai Hanmo, who was fighting desperately just now, suddenly sneered and directly crushed the name tag. His figure quickly disappeared into light. Everyone was stunned on the spot. Chapter 10-12. Everyone was stunned on the spot, especially the poisonous young master. He was a little dumbfounded. He was fooled. Initially, he saw Bai Hanmo's desperate look. He thought Bai Hanmo would fight to the end. Who knew that Bai Hanmo ran away when he was about to exert his strength in anger? This feeling was like a heavy punch hitting cotton, with nowhere to exert force. This depressed feeling made him want to vomit blood, but there was no other way. Outside the arena, Yi Shiwen was laughing crazily. He dared to say that Bai Hanmo must have done this on purpose. Bai Hanmo definitely planned to do this from the beginning. Absolutely. Only the poisonous young master, who had an abnormally ugly expression, was left in the arena. His gaze swept to Yi Shiwen, who was laughing happily on the side, like a ferocious beast. Yi Shiwen ignored the depressed poisonous young master. Bai Hanmo was directly teleported out from the arena. The identity token in his hand was completely shattered. However, he was naturally satisfied to be able to make it this far. Yao Qian quickly stepped forward to support Bai Hanmo. Her words were full of reproach, but Yi Shiwen did not say anything. He just gave a thumbs up. Bai Hanmo grinned, revealing his white teeth. However, it affected the wounds on his body, making him grimace. Don't you know to be careful when you know it hurts? Seeing him grimace like a monkey, Yao Qian was a little dumbfounded. It's okay, it's okay. I disgusted that guy before I left. It's worth it, Bai Hanmo said with a smile. Sister Yao, I'm going in close cultivation. You have a breakthrough? Yi Shiwen wondered. Bai Hanmo nodded with a smile. You brat, people avoid you like snakes and scorpions. You actually used the poisonous young master as a stepping stone. Ha ha ha, if he knows about it, he will be pissed to death. Yi Shiwen laughed loudly. It turned out that the poisonous young master happened to be teleported out from the arena. When he heard this sentence, the long-suppressed anger in his heart turned into a mass of blood, spurting out directly. Encountering Yi Shiwen was like encountering a nemesis that he had never encountered before. Although he won the battle, he did not feel any glory. It was a shame to be forced to this extent by a Transcendent Realm 8th level kid. But what was even more humiliating was that when he came out, he heard that this kid was about to break through. She had actually become his whetstone. All these factors combined caused him to spit out a mouthful of blood. The poisonous prince's expression was sinister, and his gaze was as sharp as a knife. He was a sorcerer, and he would definitely let these two people die without a burial. His eyes kept darting around, and no one knew what he was thinking about. However, he didn't stay. He turned around and left. At this moment, he felt that the whole world was laughing at him. How could he stay? Because Bai Hanmo was about to break through, Yao Qian accompanied him to leave the venue directly. Anyway, both of them had withdrawn from the competition. The subsequent contempt had nothing to do with them. Naturally, they didn't care at all. Only Yi Shiwen stayed. Although the match between Bai Hanmo and the poisonous prince was over, the 10th round was not over yet. There were more heavyweight duels in it. Among them, Yi Shiwen was most concerned about the battle between Pei Xingqian and the younger sister of the Sea Devil clan, Hai Wuyo. These two were originally favored by everyone to be in the top 10. However, they had encountered each other at this time. In other words, if two tigers were to fight, one of them would definitely be injured. When Yi Shiwen turned his attention to Pei Xingqian's battle, the battle between the two was at its most intense. The long halberd in Pei Xingqian's hand continued to pierce through the sky and earth, smashing on Hai Wuyo's body. Hai Wuyo's body began to grow scales, revealing her demonic sea beast clan bloodline. She became more terrifying. "You are strong!" Pei Xingqian's hands did not stop moving. The long halberd in his hand continued to pierce through the sky and earth. It was like a flood dragon, biting Hai Wuyo, not giving her any chance. "However, this is the end." The long halberd in Pei Xingqian's hand suddenly began to bloom with endless light. Countless ancient and mysterious laws entwined in it. The mighty aura seemed to be able to penetrate the earth. It was truly terrifying. With the boundless momentum of a powerful army, it instantly came crashing down. Outside the arena, Yi Shiwen's pupils slightly shrank. Pei Xingqian wasn't simple at all. Just this move alone was enough to make him stand above everyone else. Moreover, the aura of that majestic battle array had been passed down from an ancient dynasty. One of Hai Wuyo's hands blasted out true essence, and the other hand blasted out devil essence. Both of his hands joined together, and true essence and devil essence violently rampaged, annihilating each other, swallowing each other, bursting forth into a terrifying ball of light. Then, a beam of light directly shot up into the sky, heading straight for the halberd. Boom! A terrifying collision occurred between the two sides. Circles of light waves swept out directly. The barrier of the entire arena was directly shattered on the spot. The aftermath swept directly over, causing Yi Shiwen's collar to flutter. In this turbulence, Yi Shiwen clearly saw that Pei Xingqian's long halberd directly broke through the light waves and directly blasted Hai Wuyo away. This battle, Pei Xingqian won. The two experts who were favored by everyone to have the potential to enter the top 10 had been decided. Hai Wuyo was no match for Pei Xingqian. At this point, the list of top 10 experts who advanced with Yi Shiwen was finally announced. In addition to Yi Shiwen, young Master Hai Long, Pei Xingqian, and Jian Wushuang from the human clan occupied a total of 3 of the 7 spots this time. The eldest disciple of the other overlord force, Princess, was defeated by Crocodile's Shadow by one move in the battle with him. Crocodile's Shadow and Poisonous Young Master also defeated their opponents and advanced to the top 10. In addition to them, Jing Wuhui and Flaming Young Master also successfully entered the top 10. As for the Sea Demon Tribe's siblings that everyone had high hopes for, they were both defeated. Boundless Sea was defeated by Pei Xingqian, while Boundless Sea was defeated by Jing Wuhui. They weren't too far off, but they still lost in the end. The top 8 on the stone wall was finally announced. The remaining 2 spots would be between the top 3 experts of the younger generation, Princess, Boundless Sea, and Hai Wuyo. In other words, no matter what, one of the demonic sea clans would advance to the top 10. Even so, the demonic sea clan experts who came this time were still unhappy. The siblings, Boundless Sea and Wuyo, whom they had high hopes for, were both defeated by the human clan and the sea clan respectively. This made them a little depressed. It was also a direct slap to their faces. Originally, they wanted to rise as a third force in the flourished Cloud Sea region, relying on Chaos Demon Sea to become the third behemoth in the flourished Cloud Sea region, independent of the human clan and the sea clan. However, the competition between the top experts of the younger generation was like a big slap to their ambition. It made them deeply understand that there was still a huge gap between them and the human clan or the sea clan. The few who advanced to the top 10 could rest for a while and watch the competition between these 3 people. They could strive to recover more stamina than others. In reality, the battle between Boundless Sea and Hai Wuyo ended with Hai Wuyo's forfeit. Then, it was the battle between Hai Wuyo and Princess. Although Princess was defeated by Crocodile's shadow, she was worthy of being the disciple of Light Cave, one of the three overlords. After a hard battle, she completely defeated Hai Wuyo. Originally, there was still one more match with Boundless Sea. However, because Hai Wuyo lost both matches, there was no need for the following matches. The last two spots were taken by Boundless Sea and Princess. The real competition for the top 10 rankings had also begun at this point. For some people, perhaps entering the top 10 meant that the competition had come to an end. However, for most people, this was just the beginning. The previous battles were just appetizers. What top 100 ranking? For many people, only the top 10 was valuable enough to be watched. As for the top 100, there was nothing worth watching at all. As for the competition for the top 10, it would be the most intense battle. Moreover, all of them would be decided in one round. There would only be one chance, and there would be no second chance. Not to mention, if one failed like just now, they would still have a chance to compete for the top 10 again. This was related to their ranking in the top 10. They only had one chance. Moreover, their opponent would be an expert of the same level. No one would have any thoughts of luck. They would definitely fight with all their might. The battle would definitely be unprecedentedly intense. At this stage, no one could have any hopes of luck. Yi Shiwen's opponent in the first round of the competition was none other than the poisonous young master, who hated him to the bone. Yi Shiwen had a bye in the previous round. He didn't seem to contribute much in the previous battles. Hence, in many people's opinion, he had yet to fully display his strength. The poisonous young master was different. Although Bai Hanmo put him in a difficult position and tricked him in the end, it did not mean that he had no strength. Although there were rumors that the poisonous young master suffered a loss in Yi Shiwen's hands, it was only when Yi Shiwen was at Transcendent Realm 8th level. Now, the poisonous young master had entered Transcendent Realm 9th level. Compared to before, he had undergone tremendous changes. There was bound to be another fierce battle between the two sides. Chapter 10-13. In the sky, above a cloud platform, several figures were sitting on a high platform. Their eyes fell on the top 10 this time. It was two men and a woman. The woman was about 20 years old. She was dressed in a light yellow dress, but she had an icy look on her face. As for the two men, they were polar opposites. One was tall and mighty, like an iron tower. His bronze-colored skin glowed faintly under the sunlight, and there was a hint of disdain on his face. As for the other person, he looked like an 11 or 12-year-old child. He was dressed in loose clothes and looked very comical. Only the few scales on his forehead revealed that he was not human. Are these the top 10 of the Flourished Cloud Sea region this time? I don't think so. The Flourished Cloud Sea region has long been in decline. Hee hee, the childlike man said. What's so interesting about the Flourished Cloud Sea region? I really don't understand what's the point of mustering so many people. I can strangle them to death alone, said the tall and mighty man. Hee hee, don't underestimate them. Anyway, there's still young Master Hai Long. That guy is not easy to deal with, said the childlike man with a smile. Only this one is a little tricky. The others are nothing to me. The Flourished Cloud Sea region has long lost its destiny. Heaven doesn't care about them anymore, said the tall and mighty man. This time, I'm going to send them into the abyss. They don't have to go to the Blood Realm trial. Ha ha! His maniacal laughter rippled in the sky. Whatever. It's best if you can handle it. I don't have to do anything, said the childlike man lazily. If the Flourished Cloud Sea region people don't go, then we can get a little more. In the long run, the Flourished Cloud Sea region will be annexed by us. It's only a matter of time. The ice-cold woman just stood there coldly, as if she had no interest in the conversation between the two of them. If I can annex the Flourished Cloud Sea region, the first thing I will do is to kill all humans. This is the Endless Sea region. It's not a place where humans can act presumptuously. The tall man clenched his fists, and scales faintly flashed on his fists. He was also a Sea Clan expert. Just like what we did in the Typhoon Sea. Haha, what do you think these flourished Cloud Sea region people feel when they are at their most proud? What do you think they feel when they are splashed with a basin of cold water? The childlike warrior sneered and said, Just thinking about it makes my blood boil. After I finish this matter, I will go back and prepare for the trial of blood and fire. Hee, I hope I can survive. In the field, Yi Shiwen and the poisonous young master were already facing each other. The battle was about to start. Finally, it's our turn to fight. The poisonous young master looked at Yi Shiwen sinisterly and said, Their chances of encountering each other would be much greater after the competition of the top 10. It wouldn't be like searching for a needle in a haystack like before. It's just a matter of whether it's sooner or later. Yi Shiwen smiled and said, Are you in a hurry to lose? I want to kill you as soon as possible. The poisonous young master said coldly. Kill me? Yi Shiwen sneered and said, I didn't even use my full strength before. Now, this stage of the top 10 is the time for me to show my strength. No one can stop me. Arrogant. The poisonous young master snorted coldly. He suddenly shot his palm, and the great poisonous handprint instantly covered the entire arena. The violent poisonous gas instantly filled the entire arena. If it were someone else, they would have a headache dealing with this poisonous gas. However, it was Yi Shiwen. For him, this poisonous gas was nothing. It couldn't even corrode and penetrate the surface of his skin. His tyrant body had already cultivated his body to a terrifying level. It was just that it couldn't be seen from the outside. However, it was enough for him to compete with the real dragons of the same realm. Not to mention, these poisonous flaming dragons only had the bloodline of the dragon race. They were merely sub-dragons. You'll know whether I'm arrogant or not in a moment. A blazing flame ignited in Yi Shiwen's hand. It turned into the shape of a saber aura, and suddenly chopped out. Rumble! The terrifying flaming saber aura directly chopped out a huge shock wave on the ground. It directly cut a huge crack in the arena. This crack was still chopping towards the great poisonous handprint at lightning speed. Boom! The flaming saber aura chopped on the great poisonous handprint. The violent shock wave instantly swept out in all directions. The enchantment on the arena suddenly became visible, and a little crack began to appear. This was only the first time they exchanged blows. Moreover, they didn't directly attack the enchantment on the arena. Just the shock wave alone had such power. One could well imagine how terrifying a fight between the top 10 would be. Yi Shiwen's flaming saber aura directly broke through the great poisonous handprint with irresistible force, and then continued to chop towards the poisonous young master. Damn it! The poisonous young master cursed. He condensed a strange handprint in his hand, and chanted a simple and unsophisticated incantation. The incantation was like a syllable from the sky. He instantly roared out a terrifying sound. Countless poisonous gases began to condense, turning into a huge hand. In an instant, the huge poisonous gas hand grabbed the fiery saber chi that was coming at him. Puff! The flaming saber aura was like a mass of gas. It was instantly grabbed and extinguished. Moreover, only a slight sound came out. There wasn't even an explosion in the poisonous handprint. Go to hell! This was a bigger poisonous handprint. However, compared to the previous one, it was obviously a fundamental improvement. The originally scattered poisonous gas was also gathered at this time. Its power was more terrifying than before. Yi Shiwen could see with his naked eyes that when the great poisonous handprint pressed down, the entire sky seemed to be corroded into a hole of the great poisonous handprint. It was extremely terrifying. Yi Shiwen, I want you to die without a burial place today! The poisonous young master laughed wildly. He wanted to vent all the shame that Yi Shiwen had imposed on him. He wanted to vent it all on Yi Shiwen. I said that no one can stop me. I'll start with you. Yi Shiwen's body was covered with golden divinities. He looked like a god, shining with golden light. He stomped his feet, and the divinity suddenly turned into a mass of golden light and flew out. Clang! The dazzling flaming saber aura instantly swept out. The saber slashed out, and the world seemed to be caught in a raging fire. The poisonous gas was burned out in an instant. The saber aura in Yishuin's hand danced, and a layer of flaming saber aura swept down like a huge wave. Boom! The poisonous young noble's poisonous palm print was also slashed open, and a copious amount of poisonous gas instantly leaked out. Damn it! The poisonous young master was burning with anger. However, Yishuin's saber had already slashed down. How can he be so fast? The poisonous young master secretly gritted his teeth and said. Yishuin's speed was countless times faster than before. Moreover, the most important thing was that he hadn't shown such a fast speed in his previous battles. But he was now so fast at a glance. There was almost no gap between the two sabers. Clang! Yishuin once again chopped the big poisonous handprint with his blade. Die! The saber directly cut open a huge crack on the great poisonous handprint. Even the cold saber aura penetrated into the poisonous young master's arm, directly cutting a huge wound on the palm of the poisonous young master. Ah! The poisonous young master screamed, and quickly retracted his hand. What kind of freak was this? One must know that his hands had been soaked in thousands of poisons for many years. Nothing could be seen from the outside, but in fact, the inside of his hands had already become as hard as metal and stone. There was no problem for him to resist ordinary rank divine tools. However, such a big wound had actually been cut open by Yishuin's saber energy. No wonder this kid didn't carry any weapons at all. He could only rely on his flaming saber aura to fight until now. It was not the first time he suffered a loss in Yishuin's hands. He thought that he had already entered the Transcendent Realm 9th level, and his strength was incomparable to before. However, he still underestimated Yishuin's progress. Without waiting for him to think too much, Yishuin's third saber had already arrived. One saber followed by another. Yishuin didn't give the poisonous young master any chance to breathe at all. The most terrifying thing was that the poisonous young master quickly discovered that Yishuin's saber aura was getting heavier. If this continued, he would be killed by the saber sooner or later. Damn it, do you really think I can't do anything to you? The poisonous young master was enraged. In order to deal with Yishuin, who seemed to be able to restrain his ability, he deliberately prepared a backup plan. He thought that he could turn the tables at the critical moment, but he didn't expect Yishuin to force him to use it so early. It was humiliating, but at this time, he couldn't care so much. Even if he was humiliated, it was much better than being directly cut in half on the spot. Boom! Yishuin slashed down again, and the flaming saber aura directly split the arena into two halves. The terrifying flaming saber aura swept out. If there was no enchantment reinforced by the law manifestation realm masters, the terrifying saber aura alone could shock some people and cause internal injuries. The poisonous young master barely avoided the saber. He muttered something in his mouth. His eyes were bright, constantly blooming with aquamarine light. His hand was slowly covered with aquamarine poisonous gas. After a while, it wrapped his entire arm. Soon, the poisonous gas dissipated. Everyone looked at it, and saw a pair of aquamarine gloves. This glove was covered with aquamarine scales. The 5 fingers were as sharp as 2 giant claws, faintly exuding a terrifying and dangerous aura. Chapter 10:14. Yishuin raised his eyebrows. This is actually an Earth-level martial art instrument. No wonder the poisonous young master is so confident that he can deal with Yishuin. Even Yishuin only snatched an Earth-level demonic saber from Crown Prince Crocodile previously. Crown Prince Crocodile, a behemoth top prodigy, only obtained an Earth-level demonic spear previously. It was conceivable that not everyone in the flourished Cloud Sea region could own an Earth-level martial art artifact, let alone martial artists below the law manifestation realm. It was already a great thing to own one. The Earth-level martial art instrument itself had extraordinary power. With an Earth-level martial art instrument glove, the poisonous young master's strength had increased by more than a little. "If you think you can stop me with this, then you are wrong," Yi Shiwen sneered. A demonic saber exuding demon aura appeared in his hand. "Hiss, another Earth-level martial art instrument!" There was an exclamation among the crowd. On the high platform, many people were already envious when they saw the poisonous young master take out an Earth-level martial art instrument. Now, seeing Yi Shiwen take out another Earth-level martial art instrument demonic saber, there was another exclamation. Are all the experts of the younger generation this rich? Do they already have Earth-level martial art instruments? This made those law manifestation experts who had reached the law manifestation realm for many years, but they were still empty-handed. How could they accept the human-level martial art instruments? A look of resentment flashed in the poisonous young master's eyes. Clang! A terrifying saber aura slashed out in an instant. The power of Yi Shiwen's fiery saber aura was already terrifying. Now, under the enhancement of the demonic saber, it reached a terrifying level. Almost as soon as the saber was pulled out, the saber radiance immediately tore through the vast sky. It flickered constantly like the rumbling thunder, and immediately slashed down. When Yi Shiwen first obtained this demonic saber, he still couldn't control it. But now, with his profound cultivation, this demonic saber could only be completely suppressed in his hands. The demonic nature could not affect Yi Shiwen at all. If it weren't for the fear that the demonic nature would affect the power of the demonic saber after erasing it, Yi Shiwen would have erased the demonic nature long ago. The saber radiance shook the sky as if it was going to destroy the world. The poisonous young master's complexion suddenly changed. His complexion turned deathly pale. He hadn't expected that Yi Shiwen's blade would be so powerful. He had never seen someone from the younger generation who had yet to enter the Transcendence realm actually use an Earth-class Dharma artifact to such an extent. Of course, he hadn't seen many members of the younger generation who possessed an Earth-rank magic tool. If it wasn't for the sake of winning the championship this time, he'd specially looked for his clan's backing elder to obtain this Earth-rank magic tool. Otherwise, it would have been impossible for him to possess an Earth-rank magic tool. Although he hadn't seen it before, it didn't mean that he didn't know. He felt as if heaven and earth were about to be cut in half. He felt as if heaven and earth were about to collapse. The violent blade light suppressed everything, and everything was crushed into pieces under his blade light. Almost subconsciously, he tore out countless poisonous lights from his hands and swept them towards the saber light. Boom! A terrifying collision ensued. The two Earth-ranked magic tools were pushed to the extreme and suddenly exploded. A violent shock wave immediately bombarded the surroundings. The boundary, which was already on the verge of collapse, suddenly exploded with a loud bang, and swept even further away. All the warriors on the grandstand couldn't help but take a deep breath, especially many people. They felt chills running down their spines. They were all Transcendent Realm 9th level peak experts. They were confident that their strength was tyrannical. After seeing the Earth-class magic tool, they still wanted to snatch it. Among the two, Yi Shiwen was the best target compared to the poisonous young master who had a behemoth backing him. If they snatched the poisonous young master's weapon, they would have to face the pursuit of the poisonous Flaming Dragon Clan's law manifestation experts. If that happened, they would be courting death. Even if they had the Earth-class magic tool, it was impossible to escape from the law manifestation experts. And Yi Shiwen was their best target. In fact, many of them had even thought of forming a group to intercept and kill Yi Shiwen. Gui Yuan's sect could protect Yi Shiwen, but they couldn't protect him forever. There would always be an opening. Now, this thought suddenly disappeared without a trace. Are you kidding me? The guy in front of me will split them in half with one slash. Ordinary Transcendent Realm 9th level warriors couldn't even block one slash. Even the veteran Transcendent Realm 9th level experts were not much better. They would be finished after 2 slashes. Yi Shiwen grew so fast. When he first became famous in the flourished Cloud Sea region, it was because he offended the vanishing Shadow Poisonous Crocodile clan. In the hearts of many veteran Transcendent Realm experts, he was just a clown running around. they didn't think much of it. Unknowingly, Yi Shiwen had grown to such a level. He had reached the point where they couldn't deal with him at all. Good, good, good. This man has grown to this point. We can't let him live. An elder in the Vanishing Shadow Poisonous Crocodile clan stood up suddenly and said in surprise. Compared with others, the Vanishing Shadow Poisonous Crocodile clan felt Yi Shiwen's growth the most because they almost watched Yi Shiwen's growth. Yi Shiwen had offended them a long time ago. Therefore, they had constantly sent people to encircle and suppress Yi Shiwen. However, no matter how many experts they had sent, they would all be killed by Yi Shiwen. They could only watch helplessly as Yi Shiwen grew stronger. When I go back, I must tell this news to the clan leader. This man can't be left alive. No matter what price we have to pay, we must kill him completely. Several Vanishing Shadow Poisonous Crocodile clan experts' spiritual senses communicated in midair. There was only dense killing intent. I want you to know that even if you have an Earth-level martial art tool, you are nothing in front of me. You are just a stinky bug, said Yi Shiwen coldly. Damn it! The poisonous young master's face was distorted. Yi Shiwen, do you really think I'm at my wit's end? The poisonous young master yelled. He condensed countless seals in his hands, and countless fierce auras swept out from his body. This is the dragon aura. Yi Shiwen raised his brows. He immediately recognized this aura. He had once felt this aura from the young flood dragon that had been killed. However, compared to that young flood dragon, the dragon aura of the poisonous young master was incomparably huge even though it wasn't pure. Countless draconic energies wrapped around his body, making him look like a peerless fierce dragon. Moreover, countless spiritual energies were attracted by the draconic energies and wrapped around his body, making his divinity bigger and bigger. Shwa! The poisonous young master was like a standing dragon in human form. He rushed over in an instant, and slammed his palm down, knocking away Yi Shiwen's long saber on the spot. The dragon aura itself was the strongest thing in the world. The dragon clan was also one of the few powerful races in this world, especially their physical body. It was even more tyrannical. Even Yi Shiwen's tyrant body was compared to the dragon clan. After the transformation, the poisonous young master changed his previous fighting style and began to fight openly. Wherever his dragon claws passed, the ground would be blasted open instantly. Yi Shiwen, I have to thank you for this. If it weren't for you, how could I endure the torture of the poisonous volcano and practice the true dragon aura shield that only a few people can practice? Now I want this martial art, and I will send you to heaven. The poisonous young master laughed heartily and said, if Yi Shiwen hadn't continuously defeated him and made him feel ashamed, how would he have thought of practicing the true dragon's aura shield? Very few people in the poisonous flaming dragon clan could practice it. After practicing the true dragon aura shield, although he couldn't turn into a real dragon, both his speed and strength would be enhanced to a terrifying level, far beyond the ordinary. The poisonous young master didn't have any scruples at all. Relying on the tyrannical true dragon aura shield, he directly slapped Yi Shiwen's body. He wanted to slap Yi Shiwen to death, not giving him any chance to fight back. Clang! Yi Shiwen's saber slashed on the poisonous young master's dragon claws. Suddenly, there was a burst of sparks. It was as if he had slashed on gold and stone. One must know that this was not an ordinary martial instrument, but an Earth-level martial instrument. Even the experts in the law manifestation realm didn't have an Earth-level martial instrument. Unexpectedly, it couldn't cut open his true dragon aura shield. No wonder the poisonous young master dared to look forward to meeting Yi Shiwen when he knew that the poisonous gas couldn't do anything to Yi Shiwen. It seemed that he was greatly stimulated by Yi Shiwen after he went back. Haha, Yi Shiwen, you can't break my true dragon aura shield. This is the true dragon aura shield. It's a clan that can challenge the gods. Who do you think you are? Ha ha! The poisonous young master laughed sinisterly. Do you really think I can't do anything to you? Yi Shiwen sneered and mobilized the mystical fire in his body. Ever since he subdued this mystical fire, he didn't really have many opportunities to use it. It had always been nourished in his body. Similarly, because of the existence of this mystical fire, the impurities in Yi Shiwen's body were constantly being burned away, and the tyrant body became purer and more powerful. The demonic saber in his hand was instantly wrapped in flames, turning into a real fiery saber. Whoosh! He slashed down again. The saber aura instantly traversed the vast sky, turning the sky into a sea of fire. A truly terrifying scene appeared. These flames were completely different from the fiery saber aura that Yi Shiwen slashed out previously. Yi Shiwen's fiery saber aura previously burned the air, but now his flames were actually burning the space. The space that even the experts in the law manifestation realm couldn't break was actually burning with a sizzling sound. Everything meant that this saber had a completely different power from the previous one. Chapter 10-15. The poisonous young master also quickly realized that this saber attack was extraordinary. It was completely different from the previous one. The flame made his heart palpitate. One must know that this was originally impossible. He was a disciple of the poisonous Flaming Dragon clan. He had the bloodline of the poisonous Flaming Dragon clan in his body. In addition to using poison, flames were also his forte. Although he was not as proficient as the poisonous young master, ordinary flames could not hurt him at all. Even if it cut his body, it would be completely absorbed by his body. He had been active on the edge of volcanoes since he was a child. After that, he practiced in volcanoes. He had never been afraid of flames. However, he was actually afraid of this saber attack. But at this time, there was no time for him to think too much. He directly blasted out poisonous smoke with both hands to protect himself. Yi Shiwen's saber attack was extremely brilliant. The saber light cut through the vast sky, instantly cutting off the poisonous smoke in the sky, and fell on the poisonous young master's true dragon aura shield. Boom! This slash actually created a small mushroom cloud that rose up crazily. The violent shock wave was condensed together and blasted into the true dragon's protective aura shield. The originally invincible true dragon aura shield cracked in an instant, and a huge wound was cut out. This is impossible! The poisonous young master was directly sent flying by the saber attack. Although it did not cut his body, the remaining force passed through the true dragon aura shield and directly sent him flying. Although the true dragon aura shield could be very tyrannical for a short period of time, he was not a true dragon. Of course, he was not a match for the power of Yi Shiwen's tyrant body. Hiss! What kind of flame is that? The experts of the poisonous Flaming Dragon clan suddenly took a breath of cold air. What kind of flame was that? Among the sea clans, the poisonous Flaming Dragon clan who played with fire was considered to be unique. Among the many sea clans, they were considered to be completely unconventional. In the environment of the Endless Sea region, cultivating fire-attributed martial arts would only result in being suppressed by others. However, they were different. The fire-attributed martial arts and magical powers that they cultivated came from their instincts. It was an innate magical power, so they didn't care about the environment of the Endless Sea region. But generally speaking, the flames that their clansmen could play with were only ordinary flames. It was the first time they had seen a flame that could cut through the shield of vigor of a true dragon. What true dragon's aura shield? What a joke! Yi Shiwen sneered and chopped down his blade once again. His saber technique was mediocre, and there was nothing extraordinary about it. It was just an ordinary saber slash. It seemed very simple. However, it made the poisonous young master complain incessantly. Although it didn't seem difficult, it wasn't the case. Yi Shiwen's momentum had already been cultivated to an extremely terrifying level. He could use his momentum to suppress you, and make it impossible for you to run away. If you try to resist, you will fall into his trap. Bang! He was sent flying again. Bang! Bang! Yi Shiwen slashed again and again. Each slash was more terrifying than the previous one. It was just like a rolling snowball. It might not be felt at the beginning, but as he slashed again and again, it would form a terrifying cycle. The true dragon's aura shield on the poisonous young master's body began to show signs of shattering. It was only a matter of time before the true dragon's aura shield was broken. "I can't go on like this!" he suddenly roared and grabbed out with his palm. It turned into a dragon claw and directly grabbed the fiery long saber in Yishuin's hand, not letting it continue to slash down. He knew that if he allowed Yishuin to continue slashing like this, then only death would be waiting for him. He would probably be hacked to death on the spot. "You want to catch my demonic saber? You're still far from it." Yishuin didn't even think about it. He directly mobilized the mystical flame, and it instantly began to burn on the demonic saber. "Ah!" the poisonous young master screamed. His dragon claw was burning on the spot. He suddenly screamed, "What kind of flame is this?" This flame not only activated his true dragon's aura shield, but it also burned the dragon's aura. The dragon's aura itself was the purest yang aura in the world. Ordinary flames could not burn the dragon's aura shield at all, but this flame could. This flame was very evil. It almost burned his whole body in an instant. The poisonous young master immediately screamed in pain. The flame instantly burned the protective aura of the true dragon on the poisonous young master's body. The poisonous young master had just cultivated the true dragon's aura shield recently. There was very little of it. After being burned, it was gone immediately. After burning the true dragon's aura shield, all the flames immediately rushed to the poisonous young master. The poisonous young master screamed and rolled around. The flesh on his body melted at a speed visible to the naked eye. Compared to Yishuin in the past, it was even more miserable. Even Crown Prince Crocodile, an unparalleled sword, were fully prepared to pass through such flames. They blocked it with martial art instruments, not daring to touch it at all. Only a freak like Yishuin could survive after being infected with it. The poisonous young master's body was constantly emitting Jin Qi to resist the strange flame and extinguish it. It had to be said that the poisonous young master's martial power was many times more tyrannical than Yishuin's. Moreover, he had the help of the earth-grade divine tool glove. So, he was able to suppress the strange flame. However, half of his body's flesh had already been burnt. Humph! Yishuin looked at the poisonous young master coldly. He was not surprised that the poisonous young master could suppress the mystical flame. The poisonous young master's strength was dozens of times stronger than Yishuin's. Yishuin could survive the mystical flame back then, let alone the poisonous young master. Moreover, these flames did not appear out of thin air. They needed to be nurtured by Yishuin. Due to the particularity of this flame, Yishuin could not nurture much of it until now. It could be said that the more he used, the less it would be. Hence, Yishuin was reluctant to use it. This time, he deliberately used it to deal with the poisonous young master. Sure enough, its power was amazing. It instantly burned through the poisonous young master's aura shield. The true dragon aura shield that Yishuin found extremely tricky initially had no power to fight back under the attack of the mystical flame. "Yishuin, you will die in my hands!" the poisonous young master sneered. He suddenly stepped on the ground and rushed to Yishuin's side in an instant. "You're courting death!" Yishuin was about to chop the poisonous young master to death. The poisonous young master dared to attack in front of him. Wasn't this courting death? The poisonous young master smiled strangely, and the half of his body that was almost burnt to a crisp suddenly began to move. The pair of gloves in his hands suddenly began to tremble crazily. It seemed that it would disintegrate immediately. Countless forces began to rotate inside. A large amount of spiritual energy was absorbed. It was almost like a black hole that wanted to devour everything. "He's going to self-destruct." Yishuin suddenly thought of a terrifying conjecture. The poisonous young master wanted to protect himself. He wasn't going to self-destruct himself, but the pair of Earth-level martial instrument gloves. The self-destruction of a human-rank celestial artifact was already very terrifying, let alone the self-destruction of an Earth-rank celestial artifact. Even if it was him, if he was hit by the self-destruction of an Earth-rank celestial artifact at such a close distance, he would not have a good time. "Oh no!" Yi Shiwen cursed in his heart. Self-destruction! He's going to self-destruct! Not only Yi Shiwen, but many people also noticed this. They immediately took a deep breath and were shocked by the poisonous young master's generosity. Even many law manifestation experts didn't have an Earth-level martial instrument as a NATO martial instrument, let alone a transcendent realm warrior like him. This Earth-level martial instrument was more than enough for him to use in the law manifestation realm. He self-destructed just like that. What a prodigal! What a prodigal! Many people suddenly shouted in their hearts, especially those veteran Transcendent Realm 9th level experts. They were even more excited. More people were thinking about how much the poisonous young master hated Yi Shiwen. He would rather self-destruct an Earth-level martial instrument to kill Yi Shiwen on the spot. It was obvious that he hated Yi Shiwen to the core. If he self-destructed at this time, Yi Shiwen would be blown to death on the spot. Even so, he wouldn't be any better. Yi Shiwen would be blown to death, and the seriously injured poisonous young master would also be blown to death on the spot. He wouldn't be any better. The poisonous young master smiled strangely. He retracted his hand abruptly. He wanted to detach his hand from the glove and let the glove blow Yi Shiwen to death on the spot. Damn it, don't blame me for this! Yi Shiwen's eyes suddenly flickered, and he slashed out with his saber. The saber instantly slashed through the world, blooming with incomparably brilliant brilliance. In desperation, Yi Shiwen integrated all his insights into it. This saber was fast and ruthless. Yi Shiwen had never burst out with such speed. Even when dealing with the poisonous young master, he held back because the poisonous young master was not his only opponent. But now, he couldn't care so much. He slashed his saber directly. Puff! Without any suspense, everything happened in the blink of an eye. The poisonous young master's body, which had not yet taken off the glove, was cut into two on the spot. His body was also burned into a pile of black charcoal under the blazing fire of the saber chi. The Earth-level martial instrument glove that was about to self-destruct also quieted down in an instant. Without the poisonous young master's control, it naturally stopped self-destructing. The poisonous young master was dead. The poisonous young master was dead. Everyone was stunned on the spot. Even the sound of a pin dropping could be heard. Chapter 10:16. The poisonous young master is dead. The poisonous young master is dead. Everyone was stunned on the spot. The sound of a pin dropping could be heard. Everyone was dumbfounded as they looked at the poisonous young master who had been cut in half and burnt to a crisp. They were all dumbfounded. The poisonous young master had actually been killed in front of everyone. Although it could be said that fists and feet had no eyes in a duel on the stage, not to mention in such a dangerous situation just now, it could really be said that it was either you die or I die. If Yi Shiwen did not kill the poisonous young master, then the one who died would be Yi Shiwen. But this was the poisonous young master, the top prodigy of the poisonous flaming dragon clan. How dare he! How dare he! A poisonous flaming dragon clan elder kept roaring as if he was going crazy. Fists and feet had no eyes in the arena. Everyone knew this, but he never thought that someone dared to kill the poisonous flaming dragon clan's disciple in the arena. This was also the tacit understanding between the major overlords. Even when the vanishing shadow poisonous crocodile clan dealt with the Guiyuan sect, it was done in secret. They dared not show their faces at all. Yi Shiwen was the first one to die in public. This incident was like an earthquake, instantly causing a huge wave in the hearts of everyone in the stands. This brat's guts were simply boundlessly big. Arrogant. Arrogant. It was indescribable. The poisonous flaming dragon clan was an overlord behemoth in the flourished Cloud Sea region, faintly superior to the vanishing shadow poisonous crocodile clan. Killing Crown Prince Crocodile was not enough. He still wanted to kill the poisonous young master. Is this kid really the so-called prodigy assassin? His courage is really big to a certain extent. However, there were also some people who didn't seem to care. Was it strange? He even killed Crown Prince Crocodile. Killing the poisonous young master was just a piece of cake. Before getting excited, those poisonous flaming dragon clan experts could not hold back. They immediately rushed out of the space to kill Yi Shiwen. However, the Gui Yuan sect experts reacted quickly and immediately stopped the poisonous flaming dragon clan's experts. What do you Gui Yuan sect want to do? Do you want to stop us? What do you want? Fists and feet have no eyes in the arena. What's so strange about one person dying? I don't care about the arena. He killed our poisonous young master, so I want him to die with him. You poisonous flaming dragons are trying to break the rules that have been in place for tens of thousands of years. In the face of the poisonous flaming dragon race's overbearingness, the Gui Yuan sex experts didn't budge an inch. This surprised many people. Did these Gui Yuan sex experts eat gunpowder? How could they not budge an inch? This wasn't their usual style. Although they were also one of the overlords of the flourished Cloud Sea region, as an outsider, the human overlords were more or less weak. Unless they were forced to the extreme, they generally rarely fell out with the Sea Clan overlords. Although this was also due to the fact that the human race was at a complete disadvantage in the Endless Sea realm, it also made the Sea Clan experts more overbearing in their actions. Now Gui Yuan sect confronted the poisonous flaming dragon clan for Yi Shiwen's matter. Even the vanishing shadow poisonous crocodile clan did not hesitate. This was very different from their usual image. Why was this so? The reason why the poisonous flaming dragon clan dared to be arrogant was that they were certain that Gui Yuan sect would not fall out with them because of Yi Shiwen's matter. After all, one of their geniuses died. Was there anything more serious than this? Fortunately, their poisonous flaming dragon clan had a deep foundation. If it were other forces, the death of a genius was equivalent to a generation without their own leader. For any force, it was a very serious matter. However, when the Gui Yuan sect acted as if they didn't care about fighting, they were at their wits' end. Could it be that they had a complete conflict with them here? In that case, they might not have any chance of winning. Others might be affected by the arrogant image of the Sea Clan, but they were still unclear. For so many years, they had always been arrogant, mainly because of the tolerance of the human overlords. However, tolerance did not mean that the human overlords were weaker than them. Otherwise, with their arrogant and domineering characters, how could they allow the human overlords to be on equal footing with them? It was just that compared to the Sea Clan, the human side was much more low-key. But a tiger was a tiger after all. No matter how low-key he usually was, he was still a tiger. There would not be much change in his nature. When they thought of this, they immediately became hesitant. Unfortunately, there was no one among them who could bear the consequences of a war between the two clans. They could only look at the experts of the Gui Yuan sect hatefully and think about how they would take revenge after the war. This brat must not be allowed to live. At this moment, they had the same thought as the vanishing shadow poisonous crocodile clan experts. It was not only because he killed the poisonous young master, but also because he killed the poisonous young master. Among the experts of the younger generation, there wasn't much of a difference in strength. Some of them could defeat others, but it didn't mean that they could kill others. These were two completely different concepts. Once such a person grew up, he might become an existence that destroyed the balance. In the ancient Barrens continent, these overlord-class colossuses were in charge. Among them, there were many old monsters that had lived for countless years. Everyone had to be under the control of these overlords. There were no exceptions. However, there was one kind of person who was an exception. That was the monstrous genius. This kind of person was born to destroy the balance, just like the heaven's favorite. Once such a person appeared, it would inevitably be an existence that shocked the entire region. Once such a person appeared, it was likely to destroy the balance of the entire region. Just like a law manifestation expert could easily kill a group of transcendent realm experts, they were too clear about the threat an expert with the potential to go to a higher level could bring. However, they were enemies. If such a person appeared in their clan, it would naturally be a great blessing. Such a person was worth using all resources to cultivate. But unfortunately, he was not. Although Yi Shiwen only had this kind of potential, he might not become what they were most worried about in the end. Even so, it was enough to make them worried. If such a person was not strangled in the cradle, they would have been in vain for so many years. The only problem was that the Gui Yuan sect was constantly hindering them. This was something that needed to be resolved. But they did not believe that the Gui Yuan sect could protect him for the rest of his life. 10 years, 50 years, 100 years. There would always be a chance. No matter how shocked everyone was, he had indeed done it. He had killed the poisonous young master. He was the first of the top 10 experts to fall. However, just because he was the first to fall didn't mean that the other battles were heartwarming. On the contrary, the other battles were equally cruel. In the first round of battles, apart from Yi Shiwen and the poisonous young master's battle, the other top 10 experts were not simple figures. Yi Shiwen was not afraid of the poisonous young master's poisonous gas, so he could suppress him throughout the battle. However, the others did not have such an advantage. In order to advance to the top 5, they could be said to be fighting with all their might. They were not like Yi Shiwen, whose victory was decided so early. Due to Yi Shiwen's early victory, he could easily sit and watch the others' battles. Apart from Yi Shiwen's group, the battles of the other 4 groups had entered the most intense stage. Among them, the battle of the previous defending champion, Sea Dragon Young Master, was undoubtedly the most eye-catching among them. His opponent was the disciple from Light Cave, the princess. Although the princess was not as famous as Sea Dragon Young Master, as the chief disciple of Light Cave, her strength was naturally unquestionable. She constantly blasted out all kinds of unique techniques. She was not inferior to Crown Prince Crocodile and the others. However, what was even more terrifying was that young Master Hai Long was completely suppressed by the tyrannical princess. Although young Master Hai Long was completely suppressing the princess, he didn't have a complete advantage. Yi Shiwen felt a little strange because it seemed that Sea Dragon Young Master could completely suppress the princess by relying on his experience and skills, but he lacked some explosive power. In other words, when he could clearly defeat the princess, he didn't show that kind of dominating combat power. This did not match the information Yi Shiwen knew about Sea Dragon Young Master. Among the top 10 experts in the previous tournament, each ranking was not very certain because everyone had their own opinions. However, only one person's ranking was always certain, and that was Sea Dragon Young Master. He was recognized as the champion. Even the Sea Clan did not deny this. But in today's battle, Sea Dragon Young Master did not show such dominating combat power. Is it because his progress over the years is not fast enough? Yi Shiwen was a little puzzled, but it was just a little puzzled. No matter how weak Sea Dragon Young Master was, there was no suspense in defeating the princess in the end. The princess was completely at a disadvantage compared to Sea Dragon Young Master in all aspects. She did not have the upper hand at all. Defeat was only a matter of time. Among the top 5, apart from him, the first to decide the winner should be Sea Dragon Young Master. He was certain of this. Yi Shiwen didn't have any interest in this battle since the outcome of this battle had already been determined. So, he turned his attention elsewhere. He saw the battle between Pei Xingqian and the Flame Young Master. The battle had reached its climax. Both sides' bodies were stained with blood. The scene was completely frozen for a while. He knew Pei Xingqian's strength very well, but Flame Young Master was not an ordinary character who could fight with Pei Xingqian to this extent. Chapter 10:17. In addition to the battle between Pei Xingqian and Fiery Young Master, there was also the battle between Unparalleled Sword and Boundless Sea. The battle between the two sides had also entered a white-hot stage. However, compared with the evenly matched battle between Pei Xingqian and Fiery Young Master, the battle between the two was more bloody. Unparalleled Sword was a sword Dao cultivator. He was particular about pressing forward. With a sword in hand, the world was his. There was no retreat. He did not care about defense at all. His attack power was exceptionally sharp. Boundless Sea inevitably fell into a disadvantage in the face of such a pure sword Dao cultivator. Or it could be said that it was difficult for him to adapt to this kind of fighting style. In Yi Shiwen's view, although Boundless Sea was also very strong, he was not unparalleled sword's opponent. Facing such an indomitable opponent, only a warrior with both offense and defense like Yi Shiwen could suppress a sword Dao cultivator in the same realm. Then Yi Shiwen shifted his gaze to the other side. Crocodile Shadow vs. Jing Wuyuan. This battle was even more intense. Jing Wuyuan had been famous for many years. Needless to say, his strength was strong. Although Crocodile Shadow had been shelved for many years, it was just that he did not show up in front of others. However, the resources he received were no less than Crown Prince Crocodile. Even because he could not show up, he could only cultivate crazily. In terms of strength, he was probably a level higher than Crown Prince Crocodile. Jing Wuyuan's strength was not weak, but when facing Crocodile Shadow, he could not unleash his full strength. Although the other 4 battles were very intense and dazzling, many people were confused. They could not tell who would win the final championship. But in the end, it was similar to what Yi Shiwen expected. In addition to him, the second person to defeat his opponent was Sea Dragon Young Master. Although he did not show the legendary dominating combat power, he did completely suppress Princess Royal. In the end, he defeated her and successfully advanced to the top 5. The battle between Pei Xingqian and Fiery Young Master ended with Pei Xingqian defeating Fiery Young Master in one move. However, in this evenly matched battle, Pei Xingqian was also seriously injured. In the end, although he successfully advanced to the top 5, he was obviously unable to compete for a higher ranking. Pei Xingqian also directly announced his withdrawal. His actions were direct and efficient, without the slightest bit of hesitation. In the other 2 groups, Crocodile Shadow and Jian Wushuang won. As soon as the ranking was announced, there was an uproar, especially among the Sea clan. They were in an uproar. Including Pei Xingqian, who had already withdrawn from the competition. 4 of the top 5 were from the Human clan. The Sea clan only had Crocodile Shadow. How could this be? This was a situation that had never happened before. Even if the entire top 10 were to be included, the Sea tribe wouldn't have the upper hand. This was something that had never happened before. In the past, the Sea race and the Human race were evenly matched, and there were even times when the Sea race had the upper hand. After all, no matter what, the Sea race was an alliance of many races, and only the Human race was a single race. This kind of situation had never happened before, but now it actually happened. There was a commotion like a frying pan. However, no one doubted the fairness of this rule. That was because this was a rule that had been established through countless years of trial and error. No one could tamper with this matter, because if they were to be discovered, they would have to face the wrath of the 6 great overlords. In other words, all of this happened naturally. Many people from the Sea clan were a little frightened. Could this be the rise of the Human race? Although they were all known as the Sea clan, they were essentially different races. In other words, the Sea clan as a whole could be compared to the Human race. If they were divided into different races, they would be vulnerable under the strong pressure of the Human race. The main force of the Human race was not in the Endless Sea, but on the ancient Barrens continent. That was the place that was truly suitable for humans to reproduce and live. But no matter what, the ranking was already out. There was no room for change. On the plaza, the 4 people who won the top 4 had already lined up. Young Master Sea Dragon, Jian Wushuang, and Yi Shiwen naturally stood together. On the other side, Crocodile Shadow stood alone, looking a little lonely. However, Crocodile Shadow didn't care. He didn't care about this kind of thing. He just kept glancing at the 3 people. A sneer flashed at the corner of his mouth, and he said, "So what if I am the only one left? So what if 4 of the top 5 are humans? As long as I win the championship and become the top person of the Flourish Cloud Sea region's younger generation, it doesn't matter how many humans there are in the top 5. It was precisely because he had been frozen for so many years that he knew very well that the so-called few people did not have any meaning at all. People would only remember the winners, who would remember the losers. As long as he won the championship, people would not be surprised that humans occupied the top 4 out of the top 5, because he was the strongest. His radiance alone was enough to overshadow everyone else. Brother Jian! Yishuan stepped forward and said, I came and went in a hurry previously. I haven't thanked you for saving my life. Yishuan was talking about the fact that Jian Wushuang rescued him from Crown Prince Crocodile's hands. Although Jian Wushuang might just be fond of him for a while, and he had the ability to escape at that time, it was an indisputable fact that Jian Wushuang rescued him at that time. Jian Wushuang just nodded. His eyes were sharp like a sword, and he said, I didn't expect you to stand here one day. When he saved Yishuan previously, Yishuan was just a small character that he didn't put in his eyes at all. It was just like saving a passerby on the roadside. He never thought that one day this passerby would be on an equal footing with him, standing in this place that represented the highest honor of the flourished Cloud Sea region's younger generation. Haha, we are all human heroes. We should get closer, young Master Sea Dragon said with a smile. Although his voice was not loud, it gave people a refreshing feeling. Compared with Crown Prince Crocodile's domineering style, there was no doubt that young Master Sea Dragon was much better than Crown Prince Crocodile. Both of you are outstanding heroes of our human race. I'm looking forward to fighting against you. Young Master Sea Dragon looked at the two and said. Although he was very gentle, his serious fighting intent was not weak at all, and he was extremely confident. This was the confidence of dominating the flourished Cloud Sea region's younger generation for hundreds of years. I won't be merciful, said Jian Wushuang faintly. Jian Wushuang's answer was concise and clear, but it was indeed his style. Then go all out, Yishuan said with a smile. None of the 4 people who came this far would want to give up here. Although the semi-finals would be held soon to determine the top 2 in the finals, it was not a problem for Yishuan at all. Although he fought continuously all the way, in fact, for him, with Phoenix regeneration technique to protect his body, he could maintain the peak state at any time and anywhere. Continuous battles were not a problem for him at all. But for the others, it was a problem. It wasn't that they didn't have good healing techniques, but they had to face opponents of the same level. Every battle was a bloody battle, and it might take them a long time to recover. Otherwise, Pei Xingqian would not have to withdraw helplessly. In his current state, he would definitely lose no matter who he met. It was better to admit defeat directly. It would look more elegant. Soon, the results of the draw came out. Young Master Sea Dragon faced Yishuan, and Yishuan's opponent was none other than Crocodile's Shadow. The 4 of them did not hesitate, and quickly entered their respective arenas. As expected, we still ran into each other, Crocodile's Shadow said with a sinister smile. I said you should enjoy your last breath before death. Just like how you beheaded the poisonous young master, you will end up the same as him today. Why? Do you want to avenge him? Yishuan said faintly. He did not seem to take Crocodile Shadow's threat seriously. That idiot's death has nothing to do with me. For me, you are all people who are about to die. I want to step on your corpses to reach the top. I want to tell those old men how wrong their decision was, said Crocodile's Shadow coldly. Hearing Crocodile Shadow's words, Yishuan did not react, but the vanishing shadow poisonous crocodile clan elders on the cloud platform were making a fuss. This ungrateful wretch! Many people in the group had such thoughts in their hearts, but there was no other way. Among the current vanishing shadow poisonous crocodile clan's younger generation, only Crocodile's Shadow was capable. If even Crocodile's Shadow fell, then they would not even have a leader in the younger generation. Therefore, in the face of Crocodile's Shadow's obvious slap in the face, they had no choice but to pretend not to hear it. You want to win? Dream on, Yishuan said with a smile as if he did not put Crocodile's Shadow in his eyes at all. It just so happens that I also use a saber. Let me show you my saber Dao! Crocodile's Shadow sneered. He flipped his hand, and suddenly a long saber appeared in his hand. It was a dark long saber. Although it was in front of him, it made people want to ignore it. It was right in front of him, but he could not see it. Shwa! The long saber in his hand was instantly slashed. The chi in his body was incredibly vigorous. Among the younger generation, he was one of the best. He slashed in an instant. Under the urging of the chi, it instantly turned into saber aura. It directly cut through the air and pounced in front of Yishuin. It was completely different from Yishuin. Yishuin's saber Dao was a righteous path. He suppressed others and defeated the enemy with force. Even if one knew it, one could not do anything about it. Crocodile Shadow's saber technique was completely strange. The saber was clearly in front of Yishuin, but when it appeared, it was in a different place. Chapter 10:18. This kind of saber technique could be said to be impossible to guard against. If one was not careful, he might die under the saber. For Yishuin, this was much more difficult to deal with than the powerful and heavy route. No matter how fast the speed was, there was always a fixed route. As long as there was a fixed route, then no matter how fast it was, Yishuin would always be able to defend. However, in the face of this erratic blade, Yishuin was somewhat helpless. They were both saber techniques, but they had a completely different form from Yishuin's saber techniques. However, the biggest difference between Yishuin and Crocodile Shadow was that for Crocodile Shadow, saber was his Dao. For Yishuin, his Dao was martial arts. He only used martial arts to control saber techniques. They were two completely different levels. Although his saber techniques were erratic and unpredictable, its speed was faster. It was just like a shadow. It rushed out directly and slashed at Yishuin's face in an instant. Only then did Crocodile Shadow reveal himself. Humph! Yishuin snorted coldly. The fiery saber aura in his hand condensed instantly and slashed down. Although Crocodile Shadow was fast, Yishuin's speed was even faster. It could even be said to be extremely fast. Although Crocodile Shadow attacked later, he arrived first. He instantly blocked the saber blade that was slashing at him. Boom! The two long sabers collided fiercely in midair. A loud explosion came out. Two completely different energies swept out instantly, turning into a terrifying shock wave that swept out in circles. When it came to the semifinals, the few overlords joined forces to reinforce the arena for the first time. In the past, a barrier of this level was more than enough. However, in the face of the experts of the younger generation who were getting more and more powerful, it seemed a little insufficient. However, the arena that was personally reinforced by a Transcendence Realm expert was naturally extraordinary. The collision of the two sabers was actually unable to break the barrier. After blocking Crocodile Shadow's saber technique, the fiery saber aura in Yishuin's hand slashed horizontally without any hesitation. It drew a huge saber aura in midair and swept out. Crocodile Shadow dodged the saber chi. The saber chi was only 1 centimeter away from his face as it slashed horizontally across his face. His feet didn't stop, he fiercely stamped on the ground, and his figure instantly retreated back more than 10 meters. Then, he got up and looked at Yishuin. His pupils had turned into that of a cold-blooded crocodile, snake-like animal, which made people shudder with fear. Not bad. Your speed is good. You can barely raise my interest, said Crocodile Shadow with a sneer. His voice had barely faded when his figure suddenly appeared in front of Yishuin. No one knew how he had moved. In fact, not many people had seen how he had moved. The long saber in his hand also drew a strange path. It was erratic in midair and appeared in front of Yishuin in an instant. Of Crocodile Yi. The speed of this slash was extremely fast, but it was also extremely strange. Not only was it strange, but its power was also extremely strong. Wherever the blade passed, the air would explode. It was so strong that it could lift mountains. How could the saber technique with such power not be fast? Yishuin fiercely stamped on the ground, and golden divinities instantly appeared on his body. Looking from afar, he looked like a god cast in gold, looking incomparably majestic. However, he still had to avoid the sharp edge of this blade. If Yishuin was struck on the spot, he would probably be chopped into 2 pieces on the spot. He did not doubt Crocodile Shadow's determination to kill him. Hong long long long! A huge crack suddenly appeared on the empty arena. The horrifying saber aura raged in it, forming a horrifying shock wave that swept in all directions. Smoke and dust rose, and sand and stones flew. Everyone's eyes widened, trying to see through the battle between the two in the smoke and dust. However, the speed of these two was too fast. There were very few people who could see through it. Even many veteran Transcendent Realm 9th level experts still felt like they were at a loss when faced with this situation. It was precisely because of this that these two people were even more terrifying. They were so fast that they couldn't even see them clearly. Crocodile Shadow was terrifying, but Yi Shiwen, who was able to survive and not be killed, was definitely not a simple character. They had only cultivated for a few years, and they were already so incredible. If they continued to cultivate, how terrifying would they become? Especially Yi Shiwen, it was even more so. He was already so powerful at Transcendent Realm 6th level. If he entered Transcendent Realm 9th level, even the law manifestation experts would not be his opponent. It was simply heaven-defying. In the eyes of those who could see clearly, Crocodile Shadow slashed Yi Shiwen with his saber amidst the smoke and dust. However, Yi Shiwen directly turned into a cluster of golden light and disappeared. Crocodile Shadow missed. It could be seen that although Crocodile Shadow's saber was fast and strange, Yi Shiwen was not a pushover. Soon, the smoke and dust dissipated. Everyone could see clearly. Suddenly, there was a burst of exclamation. This Crocodile Shadow is ridiculously powerful. He can actually suppress Yi Shiwen. The Vanishing Shadow Poisonous Crocodile clan is indeed one of the overlords. This foundation is not ordinary. Although Crown Prince Crocodile is gone, it seems that Crocodile Shadow is not worse than Crown Prince Crocodile at all. He's really powerful. Yeah, it's really fast. If it were me, I'm afraid I would be cut in half on the spot. Are the experts of the younger generation now also powerful? If that's the case, what room would we, the experts of the older generation, have? Your speed is just mediocre. Yi Shiwen's sneer came from behind Crocodile Shadow. He launched a counterattack. The fiery saber aura in his hand swelled several times in an instant. When he waved it, it was like a giant saber slashing down. Shwa! Yi Shiwen slashed down from Crocodile Shadow's body on the spot, but there was no bloodstain. It was just a phantom. I admit that your strength is higher than I thought. It is hard to imagine that someone can match me in speed to a certain extent, but you did it. You should be proud of yourself. Crocodile Shadow sneered and appeared in the air on the side, launching another attack. Almost in the next second, he had already pounced in front of Yi Shiwen. He wanted to kill Yi Shiwen, not giving Yi Shiwen any chance to catch his breath. Arrogant. Aren't you afraid of biting your tongue? Yi Shiwen sneered. The fiery saber aura in his hand confronted Crocodile Shadow without showing any weakness. Boom! 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 Both sides fought several times in the arena. It felt like they were almost on par. The two men's majestic auras collided with each other. Shockwaves directly collided with the barrier, almost blasting the entire barrier away. The scale of the fight between the two was also constantly increasing. The barrier, which was initially at ease, suddenly began to crumble. Although your strength is higher than I imagined, this can't save your fate, said Crocodile Shadow coldly. I'll let you see my cunning Dao, the cunning Dao that surpasses all other Daos. His figure was constantly flickering in the air. Yi Shiwen's divine sense had no way to lock him, let alone martial instrument attacks. Shwa! When he appeared again, the long saber had already pounced in front of Yi Shiwen, almost cutting him in half on the spot. Dang! With a loud sound of metal colliding, the long saber slashed on the blood-colored barrier, causing cracks to appear on the blood-colored barrier as if it would collapse in the next second. However, it also gave Yi Shiwen a chance to adjust. He instantly locked on to Crocodile Shadow. The long saber in his hand instantly slashed down, turning the surrounding into a sea of fire. Sure enough, Crocodile's shadow revealed his figure. Yi Shiwen's long saber followed him like a shadow. It was like a maggot in a tarsal bone. Shwa! Crocodile's shadow quickly stepped to avoid the saber. However, Yi Shiwen's saber speed was extremely fast. Although Yi Shiwen's saber technique was not as strange as Crocodile's shadow's, he was faster than Crocodile's shadow in terms of speed. He completely suppressed Crocodile's shadow's speed. Slash. Although he dodged quickly, he was still swept by Yi Shiwen's saber. A huge wound was instantly cut between his waist and abdomen. Blood instantly splashed out. Crocodile's shadow's face was a little pale. He probably did not expect that Yi Shiwen could actually slash him. Crocodile's shadow had always been the one who took the initiative to attack others. Others could not defend against his saber technique, and were killed by him in one slash. He had never been slashed by others. However, this saber was so fast. If it were another person, they might have been slashed in half. You actually... Crocodile's shadow looked at Yi Shiwen in disbelief. What trick? It's just a heretical way. You actually want to be above all other ways? Ridiculous! Yi Shiwen sneered and said, I don't care what kind of trick you are. In front of my righteous martial arts, you will be destroyed! Although they had just started fighting, Yi Shiwen already found a way to deal with Crocodile's shadow. Crocodile's shadow's trick was indeed impressive. Even Yi Shiwen could not lock on and capture him with his divine thoughts. He had to wait until Crocodile's shadow was in front of him to defend and counterattack. It was difficult to deal with. However, instead of thinking about how to deal with such a trick and being led by the nose, it was better to follow his own rhythm. In front of Yi Shiwen's righteous martial arts, tricks and heretical ways were all fleeting clouds. Even if Crocodile's shadow was injured, he could not defeat Yi Shiwen. Yi Shiwen's saber would not hurt him. However, if Crocodile's shadow was hit by Yi Shiwen's saber, he would definitely be seriously injured even if he did not die. This was his biggest advantage. An advantage that no one could match. Chapter 10-19. This was also the advantage of Yi Shiwen's all-rounder. He had no shortcomings. Every aspect was his strength. He was not worse than anyone else. Yi Shiwen had decided not to be led by the nose by Crocodile's shadow. Instead, he had to find his own rhythm. In the face of such a level of expert, the most important thing was to find his own rhythm. Whoever could find his own rhythm would have the last laugh. Crocodile's shadow's face was a little pale. This saber strike directly broke his crocodile Dao. This was the most terrifying aspect. The Crocodile's shadow's crocodile Dao that he was proud of was a joke in front of Yi Shiwen. The biggest feature of his crocodile Dao was erratic and unpredictable. However, if the opponent didn't care at all, there was nothing he could do. When faced with an expert with an incomparably powerful body, if you slashed him with your saber, you wouldn't be able to injure him at all. This was a headache. What was even more terrifying was that this expert with an incomparably powerful body was even faster. He could definitely exchange one saber strike for another. Yi Shiwen would be fine, but Crocodile's shadow would be tortured to death. At this time, Crocodile's shadow understood the poisonous young master's helplessness. Why was he completely suppressed when facing Yi Shiwen? He couldn't surpass Yi Shiwen in any aspect. Naturally, Crocodile's shadow felt helpless. Very well, very well. You are stronger than I thought. You are qualified for me to take you seriously, said Crocodile's shadow coldly. You are much weaker than I thought. You are not even as good as Crown Prince Crocodile. You are just unworthy of your reputation, said Yi Shiwen lightly. Crocodile's shadow's crocodile-like eyes suddenly contracted sharply. The sentence "not as good as Crown Prince Crocodile" immediately provoked him. His face darkened on the spot. Being inferior to Crown Prince Crocodile was his reverse scale, and the biggest hatred in his heart in this life. Unworthy of your reputation. Crocodile's shadow's body burst with extremely dazzling light. He soared directly into the sky in an instant. The overwhelming aura swept across the sky, frightening everyone. What a terrifying aura! On the grandstand, a Transcendent Realm 9th level expert looked at this scene with a pale face. The aura bursting out of Crocodile's shadow was too terrifying. If he were to display the same aura, he doubted that he could withstand even one move. Indeed, he didn't have the confidence to withstand just one move because it was too terrifying. They were all Transcendent Realm 9th level experts, but the strength gap between them had reached an unimaginable level. Looking at the figure who was only at Transcendent Realm 6th level but was still calm and composed, Yishiwen suddenly felt that he had aged. Is it really the younger generation's world now? Crocodile Shadow's aura swept towards Yishiwen like a tidal wave. He did not give Yishiwen any chance to breathe. He wanted to crush Yishiwen to death. He realized that he was stronger than Yishiwen. His tyrannical realm was 3 realms higher than Yishiwen. Perhaps Yishiwen could make up for part of this gap with his fighting prowess, but these disparities did exist. If it existed, it would be a loophole, and loopholes could be exploited. In the face of this overwhelming wave of imposing aura, Yishiwen didn't say a word and directly chopped out with his hand. This Bladiki immediately broke through the imposing aura that filled the sky. It was like a hot knife through butter, without any hindrance. Die! Crocodile Shadow's eyes were a little red. He was completely stimulated by Yishiwen. If an ordinary person said this, he wouldn't even care. He had waited for a long time. He waited for Crown Prince Crocodile's death. His mortal enemy had fallen. His heart was as hard as a rock. But the person who said this was none other than the person who single-handedly caused his mortal enemy's death. It could even be said that if Yishiwen didn't behead Crown Prince Crocodile, Crocodile's shadow would not have his day of glory. If Crown Prince Crocodile was defeated by Crocodile's shadow, then Crocodile's shadow's words meant that Crocodile's shadow was defeated by Crocodile's shadow. This had deeply hurt Crocodile's shadow. Crocodile roar! Swish! Crocodile's shadow's figure flashed, and his speed burst to the extreme. The long saber in his hand instantly burst out a terrifying saber aura. It was like a giant crocodile opening its bloody mouth on the spot, wanting to swallow Yishiwen. Everyone held their breath quietly. The whole scene seemed to be frozen. Everyone could feel the terrifying deterrence from this saber. It was a kind of terrifying power that seemed to be able to break the world. It felt like an ancient vicious crocodile had resurrected, wanting to swallow the world in one bite. Break! Yishiwen yelled. The fiery long saber in his hand slashed out horizontally, directly bringing out a shocking fiery saber aura. Wherever it passed, the air in midair was burned, forming a vacuum-like zone. Boom! 2 terrifying moves suddenly blasted together. Everyone could only see a huge mushroom cloud rising in an instant. The terrifying airwave instantly expanded into a huge sphere, wrapping both of them inside. Immediately afterward, it rushed toward the surrounding barrier. Boom! It was a terrifying collision. Everyone's hearts were tangled together. What exactly was going on? Who was the winner of this collision? Was it Crocodile's shadow? Or Yishiwen? Immediately afterward, 2 figures rushed out of the endless air wave, one in front and one behind. Almost instantly, they rushed out. However, they realized that one person was actually running away. That person was actually Crocodile's shadow. Crocodile's shadow's original chest and abdomen wound had one more wound. Blood flowed out, making people break out in a cold sweat. Crocodile's shadow lost? Someone saw this scene and immediately shouted. This time, Crocodile's shadow was obviously at a disadvantage in this collision. His wound was even deeper. At this time, the air wave finally subsided. Everyone finally saw the entire situation in the arena. The arena had already collapsed completely. Even the surrounding barrier had a few cracks. One could imagine how terrifying the battle between the two was. Yishiwen immediately chased after him. Impossible, impossible! How can I lose to you? Crocodile's shadow still said with a look of disbelief. My world-devouring crocodile has long been practiced to the highest realm. How can I not suppress you? At this time, Crocodile's shadow looked at Yishiwen as if he had seen a ghost. He had never seen such an abnormal person. He was completely suppressed by Yishiwen. The reason why Crocodile's shadow was so arrogant was naturally because he had his own ability. Even in the entire Vanishing Shadow Poisonous Crocodile clan, not many people could practice the world-devouring crocodile clan. Those who practiced it were mostly law manifestation realm experts. One could imagine how powerful his emperor was. "That's all," Yishiwen sneered. Just now, his saber slashed out with the mystical flame, directly burning his world-devouring crocodile. Although he consumed his remaining mystical flame, it was worth it. He directly injured Crocodile's shadow. The remaining heavenly flames were not enough for him to use it again. He still needed time to slowly nourish them. However, during this period of time, things had happened one after another. There was no time for him to rest, let alone have enough time to nourish the heavenly flames. After using it a few times in a row, the heavenly flames were completely insufficient. He chased after Crocodile's shadow. With his speed, it was not difficult to chase after Crocodile's shadow, who was severely injured by him. "Damn it!" Crocodile's shadow suddenly roared. He directly slashed down with a saber light. It was like a strange waterfall slashing at Yishiwen on the spot. This saber seemed to break the world and understand the mystery of life and death. In desperation, Crocodile's shadow integrated all his understanding of saber Tao into it and slashed out. This blade strike was indeed very powerful. The space began to ripple in an instant. It could cause fluctuations in the space. One could well imagine how terrifying this blade strike was. Yishiwen didn't look down on it even though it had been hurriedly slashed out. Yishiwen stepped on the golden wave. His figure instantly turned into a golden light, avoiding the saber aura. Then, he slashed out again. Boom! Crocodile's shadow was slashed on the spot. His body was almost cut into 2 pieces. Blood splashed on the spot. Those Vanishing Shadow Poisonous Crocodile clan experts suddenly stood up from their chairs. "How dare you!" Suddenly they yelled. The death of Crown Prince Crocodile was enough to make them distressed. If even Crocodile's shadow fell, they might not be able to find a leader among the younger generation. However, would Yishiwen listen to them? Anyway, he had already beheaded Crown Prince Crocodile. It did not matter if he killed Crocodile's shadow. He wanted to win the championship. No one could stop him. Moreover, the Vanishing Shadow Poisonous Crocodile clan repeatedly plotted against him. It had touched his reverse scale. Although he seemed to be a very gentle person, those who were familiar with him would know that he would be a fearless person if he was provoked. "If the heavens want to stop me, I will poke a hole in the heavens." "Why wouldn't I dare?" Yishiwen roared and slashed down again. Where the saber's shadow passed, a stream of light streaked across. Crocodile's shadow's figure was directly teleported out. At the most critical moment, Crocodile's shadow shattered his nameplate and teleported out. Boom! Yishiwen's saber aura did not slash Crocodile's shadow. Instead, it slashed the ground, creating a huge crack of tens of meters long. He actually escaped. Yishiwen understood why the poisonous young master was so depressed at that time. He could only watch helplessly as the fat meat in his mouth escaped from his grasp. Outside the arena, Crocodile's shadow, who was teleported out, was unable to fly in the air due to serious injuries. He fell directly to the ground. It was a tragic sight. Those Vanishing Shadow Poisonous Crocodile clan elders breathed a sigh of relief. No matter what, it was better for Crocodile's shadow to survive. As for the injury, it was not a problem at all for the wealthy Vanishing Shadow Poisonous Crocodile clan. However, as Crocodile's shadow shattered his nameplate and escaped, it meant that Yishiwen won the final victory in this battle and successfully advanced to the finals. Chapter 1020. Oh my God! Who is this Yishiwen? Why is he so powerful? Such a battle is beyond my imagination. This year's young experts are simply too strong. How many geniuses have been defeated by him? Crown Prince Crocodile, Poisonous Young Master, and Crocodile Shadow have all been defeated by him. Is he going to maintain such a winning record to win the championship? I don't think so. After all, young Master Sea Dragon's strength is not bad. He was the champion in the previous tournament, suppressing everyone. This is the pinnacle showdown, the battle of the highest level of the younger generation. The entire arena was already boiling with excitement. They had witnessed Crocodile Shadow's tyrannical strength, but he was almost crushed by Yishiwen. If Yishiwen defeated them after a bloody battle, everyone might not be so excited. What really excited them was that Yishiwen defeated them almost effortlessly. Ordinary Transcendent Realm 9th level experts were no longer the opponents of these young geniuses. However, these young geniuses had no power to fight back under Yishiwen's hands. Didn't this make Yishiwen more terrifying? Is his combat prowess not only at Transcendent Realm 9th level, but also at Half-Step Law Manifestation Realm? Some people even suspected this. If Transcendent Realm 9th level could have such strength, it would be too heaven-defying. Yishiwen was only a Transcendent Realm 6th level warrior. It was not an exaggeration to describe him as heaven-defying. Yishiwen had settled the battle on his side, but on the other side, the battle between young Master Sea Dragon and Unparalleled Sword was in a stalemate. Facing the Unparalleled Sword Cultivator and Unparalleled Sword Cultivator, young Master Sea Dragon was obviously not as comfortable as before. He even revealed a state of being suppressed by Unparalleled Sword Cultivator. On Yishiwen's side, he quickly turned his attention to the only battle that was still going on. The outcome of the battle between the two of them was even related to who would advance to the finals and fight against Yishiwen. Go all out, or you can't beat me! Young Master Sea Dragon yelled. With a boom, all the chi on his body burst out at once. The terrifying real elemental energy was like a mighty sea wave, instantly sweeping out a hurricane in circles, impacting in all directions. Even Yishiwen's eyes narrowed suddenly. Young Master Sea Dragon's chi was unimaginably dense. If he didn't have the Star Beast bloodline, such a heaven-defying bloodline, his chi would be far inferior to young Master Sea Dragon. Even if he cultivated to the Transcendent Realm 9th level, he might not surpass young Master Sea Dragon's level. Legend has it that young Master Hai Long has the bloodline of the dragon race, so he is much more tyrannical than ordinary people. I wonder if it's true or not, someone said. A legend. There are also legends that this young Master Hai Long possesses the bloodline of an ancient human, which is why he is so special. There were many discussions, many speculations and suspicions about young Master Hai Long's background. But no matter what, this young Master Hai Long would not have a mortal physique. Jian Wushuang was still expressionless, as if the changes in front of him would not shake him at all. The long sword in his hand suddenly stabbed out. It was like a lotus flower in midair, instantly spreading out countless layers of hardness, and then slashed towards young Master Hai Long. These sword intents had condensed into a physical body. With the existence of sword light, there was also the condensation of sword intents. In an instant, the entire world seemed to be left with this tide-like sword shadow. Sword domain! Yishiwen stood up suddenly. He did not expect Si Konghao to condense a sword domain. Among many domains, the sword domain was a very powerful domain, just like those sword cultivators. It was invincible. As the saying went, with a sword in hand, the world was mine. These sword cultivators who cultivated the sword domain were even more difficult to deal with. Although Jian Wushuang had only condensed a false domain, it was enough to greatly increase his combat power. Suddenly, a burst of exclamations came from the side. Yishiwen wasn't the only one who recognized this sword Tao domain. Many other people also recognized it in an instant. They were somewhat stunned. These geniuses revealed their trump cards one by one. This made many people feel a chill down their spines. In particular, those who were still harboring evil intentions immediately felt cold sweat dripping down their backs. This sword Tao field domain alone was enough to torture them to the point that they wished they were dead. The sword domain swept all the way, directly breaking young Master Hai Long's thick halo, and was about to slash down on him. Boom! Young Master Hai Long also erupted in an instant. In an instant, all the sword chi in the world seemed to be fixed in place, unable to get close at all. Young Master Hai Long simply erupted his own false domain. The two false domains were like two huge machines colliding in the sky, setting off a terrifying shock wave, engulfing and breaking each other. Although the sword Dao domain was abnormally sharp, young Master Sea Dragon's domain was like an endless sea. It broke through one wave after another. When one was immersed in it, it was like falling into a quagmire. There was no way to break it. Both sides were in a stalemate in the air for a while. Boom! 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 Although the domains of both sides could not do anything to each other, their original bodies were still fighting quickly. These domains could not cause any fundamental hindrance to them. One could imagine how terrifying the fight between two experts who were about to step into the half-step law manifestation realm was. It was also Jian Wushuang's first time showing such a level of combat power. Originally, everyone thought that although he was strong, they did not expect him to be able to fight evenly with young Master Hai Long. After all, in everyone's eyes, young Master Hai Long was different from them. He was recognized as the number one in the younger generation. The domains of both sides were engulfing and melting each other. Puff! Young Master Hai Long suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood. His body suddenly became unstable, and there was a bitter smile on his face. On the other side, Jian Wushuang, who was originally attacking fiercely, suddenly stopped, looked at young Master Hai Long and said, "You're injured?" Young Master Hai Long's face turned green and white, and finally nodded. "No wonder, so you're seriously injured. Then, it's no fun. Let's forget about this battle. When the day you recover, I will definitely come to you again to ask for advice." Jian Wushuang shook his head, directly crushed the name plate, and retreated. He left in a straightforward and elegant manner, without the slightest hesitation. However, his words also made everyone burst into an uproar. "Young Master Hai Long is injured! How is this possible?" Everyone discussed in disbelief. It was normal to say that young Master Hai Long was injured. No one dared to say that they would never be injured in this life. However, as the chief disciple of Sea Dragon Mansion, young Master Hai Long's status was naturally needless to say. He was definitely the best of the younger generation. If he was injured, Sea Dragon Mansion would definitely not sit idly by. There would definitely be various medicinal herbs and elixirs as rewards. However, young Master Hai Long still participated in the competition in a seriously injured state. What did this mean? This meant that the injury suffered by young Master Hai Long was definitely not that simple. It could even be said that it was so serious that even Sea Dragon Mansion could not do anything about it in a short period of time. Otherwise, how could Sea Dragon Mansion watch young Master Hai Long participate in the competition in a seriously injured state? For a wealthy behemoth like Sea Dragon Mansion, no matter how serious the injury was, it would not take long for him to completely recover under the consumption of various medicinal herbs and elixirs. And the most important thing was that young Master Hai Long actually fought all the way here in a seriously injured state. His strength was simply unimaginable. Only then did Yi Shiwen nod. No wonder this young Master Hai Long was somewhat different from the rumors. He did not have the legendary dominating combat power. Now that you mention it, I'm reminded of a rumor from before. Young Master Sea Dragon was seriously injured in the sealed land. Not only was he seriously injured, but the people who were connected to the Sea Dragon Mansion seemed to have encountered some incredible existence in the sealed land. They were seriously injured and almost all killed. At this time, a warrior suddenly slapped his forehead and said as if he suddenly remembered something. I have also heard of this rumor. Not only Sea Dragon Mansion, but other major forces also seem to have suffered heavy losses in the sealed land. Someone remembered and said, "Sealed land? Incredible existence? Could it be that peerless demon?" Yi Shiwen suddenly thought of something. In the entire sealed area, there was only one entity that could defeat all the major forces. Apart from the ominous beast inside the suppressing devil tower, There was only one other entity that could fight evenly with that ominous beast, the matchless Devil Lord. If it was really that vicious beast, then it could explain why all the major forces were severely injured. Even a strong person like young Master Hai Long was left with irreparable wounds. With this said, Yi Shiwen suddenly remembered more of the situation at that time. Originally, he thought that after the news of the demon subduing tower spread out, the major forces would quickly send people to support, but the fact was not like this. In the end, the major forces did send people to support, but they were sent from the lairs of the major sects, and not the masters of the major forces in the sealed land. This once made him feel strange. Why didn't they send ready-made masters, but they had to send people from the major forces again? Now that he thought about it, he suddenly understood. It turned out that this was the fundamental reason. It was not that they didn't send people to support, but they couldn't split themselves. After encountering that peerless demon, it was already good enough that they didn't get wiped out, let alone to support. Chapter 1021. The peerless demon was an old monster who had survived for many years. His strength was far beyond everyone's imagination. He was definitely an existence beyond the law manifestation realm. Such a monster was not something that an ordinary person could deal with. Yi Shiwen calmed his heart and felt at ease. Sure enough, within young Master Hai Long's body, there was a faintly discernible demonic energy constantly destroying his body, making it impossible for him to exert his full strength. Cough, cough, cough! Sea Dragon Young Master's face was pale. He covered his chest with his hand and coughed constantly. Every time he coughed up blood. In the end, he simply sat cross-legged on the ground and healed himself. The intense battle just now had directly caused the injuries that he had suppressed in his body to erupt all at once. He had to sit cross-legged on the spot to heal himself. However, what made Yi Shiwen even more curious was that unparalleled sword could decisively give up the honor of defeating Sea Dragon Young Master to advance to the finals just because he was seriously injured. Perhaps, in his heart, nothing was important except his sword. Now everyone was looking at Yi Shiwen, wondering what he was going to do. According to the rules, Sea Dragon Young Master must immediately enter the next battle. Yi Shiwen just stood quietly, and did not immediately urge Sea Dragon Young Master to fight. In Yi Shiwen's mind, Sea Dragon Young Master was just a seriously injured person. It was meaningless to defeat such a person. It seems that the flourished Cloud Sea region is just SOSO. What Sea Dragon Young Master? He doesn't live up to his name! A sneer came from the sky. A figure suddenly jumped down, but it was like a child wearing adult clothes. It looked abnormally ridiculous. As soon as this person appeared, everyone's eyes suddenly focused on this person. They wanted to see how Yi Shiwen would deal with it. Now, how could they have such thoughts? Is such a flourished Cloud Sea region worthy of going against our Typhoon Sea region for so many years? The childlike man glanced at Sea Dragon Young Master lightly with a slightly disdainful expression. He seemed to look down on these flourished Cloud Sea region experts, especially Sea Dragon Young Master, who now represented the face of the flourished Cloud Sea region. They are not from the flourished Cloud Sea region. They are from the Typhoon Sea region. Upon hearing the words of this childlike man, everyone finally reacted. This was not a martial artist from the flourished Cloud Sea region, but an expert from the Typhoon Sea region. Compared to the flourished Cloud Sea region, the Typhoon Sea region was a much larger sea region. If the flourished Cloud Sea region could only be regarded as a small sea region in the Endless Sea region, then the Typhoon Sea region was obviously a small sea region that was about to be upgraded to a medium-sized sea region. For many years, he had been coveting the flourished Cloud Sea region. He wanted to swallow the flourished Cloud Sea region in one bite to enhance his strength, and push the Typhoon Sea region into the ranks of medium-sized sea regions in one fell swoop. It should be known that the Boundless Sea realm was divided into 4 levels: super, large, medium, and small. The benefits and resources enjoyed by each level of the Boundless Sea realm were different. Obviously, the strength of the Typhoon Sea region was far above the flourished Cloud Sea region. Even so, even if the strength of the flourished Cloud Sea region was not as good as the Typhoon Sea region, they were at least at the same level. This was the competition for the flourished Cloud Sea region's top 100 list. It was a grand event in the flourished Cloud Sea region. Everyone still did not expect that someone from the Typhoon Sea region would dare to appear here. At this time, the younger generation's top 100 experts also gathered, looking at the childlike man with a dignified expression. Damn, why is he here? At this time, Pei Xingqian's voice came from behind Yishiwen. He had just healed most of his injuries. Do you know him? Asked Yishiwen. Yes, I've fought with him once. He's a famous young expert in the Typhoon Sea region. His name is Sanmiao Tongzi. Don't be fooled by his short stature. He looks like he hasn't weaned himself yet. But he's famous for his viciousness. Killing people is no different from chopping melons and vegetables to him. Many veteran experts have died in his hands, Pei Xingqian said with a solemn expression. This also made Yishiwen understand that the man in front of him was not simple at all. Otherwise, with Pei Xingqian's personality, he would not be so serious. Why are you talking so much nonsense with them? Does anyone dare to take a punch from me? At this time, a very rough voice came down from the sky, followed by two figures landing on the ground. The one who spoke was the strong man who looked like an iron tower, and beside him was a frosty woman. Even the two of them are here. Bastards, they are trying to slap our faces! At this time, Pei Xingqian finally reacted. Do you know these two people? Asked Yishiwen. Pei Xingqian knew that Yishiwen did not come from the flourished Cloud Sea region. It was normal that he did not know them. Pei Xingqian did not care and explained. The tall and strong man is called Pang Tiangan. He is also famous in the Typhoon Sea region for being cruel and merciless. If the opponent does not surrender immediately, he will ruthlessly attack them. It is normal to lose an arm or a leg. Many people will be punched into meat patties on the spot. In short, he is not a guy who should be provoked. That woman's name is Yan Shuran. TSK, she's also a ruthless person. It's said that she was sold to a family as a child bride when she was young. Later on, for some reason, after she awakened her innate talent, she slaughtered the hundreds of people in that family, leaving no survivors. She's definitely an extremely ferocious woman. Listening to Pei Xingqian's words, Yishiwen knew that these people were not kind people. They definitely came with bad intentions. At this time, other experts in the top 100 had also gathered, especially those in the top 10. Their faces were even uglier. They also understood that the appearance of these three people at this time was definitely not for a friendly exchange. They were 100% here to slap their faces and suppress their arrogance. Why, no one dares to take a punch from me? Pang Tiangan glanced at the crowd and said with a sneer. He did not put the crowd in his eyes at all, ignoring the countless gazes present. On the high platform, the law manifestation experts of the major forces were extremely anxious at this time, but they could not make a move. Once they made a move, it meant that no one in the younger generation could suppress these three people. It also meant that the flourished Cloud Sea region's face would be stripped clean. If it were not for the last moment, they would not do this anyway. Typhoon Sea region had coveted the flourished Cloud Sea region for many years. Naturally, these high-level experts of the flourished Cloud Sea region knew best what they were thinking. How could they let them succeed? Despicable. Pei Xingqian stepped forward and said, If you have the ability, come back after a while. Now that we have just finished a big battle and are not in our peak state, what are you if not cowards? Humph, so what if you are in your peak state? It's none of my business. I only ask, do any of you dare to come up and take a punch from me? Pang Tiangan did not care much at all. He was determined to slap their faces. Once this news spread, everyone would not care that the people of the flourished Cloud Sea region had just gone through a fierce battle and were not in their peak state. Everyone would only think that the flourished Cloud Sea region was not as good as the Typhoon Sea region at all. Even the experts of the younger generation were far inferior, so they did not dare to accept the challenge. Why are you telling them this? These sea clans of the flourished Cloud Sea region have stayed in this small place for a long time. Even their courage is almost the same as those ant-like humans. The Three Wonders boy sneered coldly as if he did not care about the flourished Cloud Sea region's sea clan compatriots at all. In this regard, the experts of the two clans present had a drastic change in expression. Needless to say, the Sea Clan experts' faces were abnormally ugly after hearing the Three Wonders boys' words. It was as if they were afraid of the human clan. The faces of the human clan experts were extremely ugly. As everyone knew, in the flourished Cloud Sea region, the human clan and the Sea Clan were still able to compete with each other. But in the Typhoon Sea region, the human clan had long been wiped out. Even if there were survivors, they could only exist as slaves. In the entire Typhoon Sea region, there was no human clan force that could make a name for themselves. Therefore, in the fight against the invasion of many forces in the Typhoon Sea region, the human clan forces in the flourished Cloud Sea region were the main force and vanguard. After all, no one wanted to follow the footsteps of those human clan forces in the Typhoon Sea region and die without a burial place. Did Edge Cloud not come? At this time, young Master Sea Dragon, who was meditating, suddenly opened his eyes and asked faintly, "I alone am enough to deal with ye useless people. Why does he need to come in person?" Pang Tiangon said coldly. Although he was a little sensitive to the name Edge Cloud, he did not give in at this time. His aura was not yielding at all. "In that case, I have to stand up. Pang Tiangon, let me have a taste of your fist technique." Young Master Sea Dragon stood up at this time and said, no matter what state he was in, at this time, it was related to the honor of the flourished Cloud Sea region and even the human clan. He was absolutely not allowed to make the slightest concession. "Since you want to die, then I will fulfill your wish," Pang Tiangon said with a grin. The ferocious expression on his face made many people shudder. It was unknown how many people he had slaughtered to have such deterrence. "Brother Sea Dragon, I think it's better to let me do it. Even that Edge Cloud hasn't come yet. There is no need to use a butcher's knife to kill a chicken. Let me deal with them." Just when the battle between the two was about to start, Yi Shiwen suddenly stood up and said, "Brother Yi, you..." Young Master Sea Dragon did not expect Yi Shiwen to stand up at this time. Chapter 1022. "Brother Yi, you..." Sea Dragon Young Master did not expect Yi Shiwen to stand up at this time. Strictly speaking, either Yi Shiwen nor Unparalleled Sword could be regarded as the people of the flourished Cloud Sea region. Hence, he could sit back and watch whether the people of the flourished Cloud Sea region were humiliated or not. It was just that the outstanding talents of the flourished Cloud Sea region were completely out of shape due to the fierce battle. They might not be able to suppress the other party, let alone under such circumstances. As the saying goes, there is no need to use a butcher's knife to kill a chicken. To deal with such a small character, it is better for an equally unknown small character like me to do it," Yi Shiwen said with a smile. He did not seem to mind being the so-called small character at all. Hearing Yi Shiwen said so, the others suddenly complained. Small character? If Yi Shiwen was a small character, then what were they? Indeed, Yi Shiwen could be regarded as unknown before the competition of the top 100 list. However, after the competition of the top 100 list, his name would certainly shake the world. But at this time, Yi Shiwen's willingness to stand up had already made them overjoyed. Naturally, they would not complicate matters. Small character! Yi Shiwen's words suddenly made the faces of the three Typhoon Sea region experts sink. With their identity and strength, it was impossible to be regarded as a small character no matter where they went. At this time, they were regarded as a small character by Yi Shiwen. How could they not be angry? "Reckless fool, since you want to die, then don't blame me. When the time comes, you can only blame yourself for being reckless," Pang Tiangon sneered and said. "Reckless?" Yi Shiwen sneered and said, "You can only brag if you can take one move from me." "One move? Who do you think you are? Do you think you are Edge Cloud?" Pang Tiangon was completely enraged by Yi Shiwen. Although he did not put Yishuwen in his eyes, Yishuwen's contemptuous attitude still thoroughly enraged him. "See Emperor dominating space fist!" He suddenly moved. Without any warning, his whole body's yunyuan was stimulated to the extreme, and suddenly rushed towards Yishuwen to kill. Suddenly, the sky was filled with his terrifying fist energy, and it blotted out the sky and crushed down towards Yishuwen. Moreover, this fist strength continued to sweep outwards. All the experts present could feel the impact of this terrifying chi strength. Even some of the lower-ranked warriors simply took a few steps back, not daring to approach. Seeing that a battle was about to break out, everyone hurriedly retreated to give the two of them enough space to stop. This punch was incomparably domineering. Although it didn't have an unparalleled speed, it gave people the illusion that it was unrivaled. It almost gave people the illusion that a punch could destroy the world. Many people in the flourished Cloud Sea region began to get nervous secretly. Yishuwen could be said to be the only expert in the flourished Cloud Sea region who still had a complete combat strength. If he fell in front of Pang Tiangan, then the flourished Cloud Sea region would be finished. Could they still count on young Master Sea Dragon, who was in an above-average state, to fight? Although Pei Xingqian and the others were in a much better state, they were definitely not in peak condition after the intense battle. If he failed, it almost meant the failure of the entire flourished Cloud Sea region. At this time, whether they like Yishuwen or not, they must pray for him. If they were defeated, then the news wouldn't be so good to hear. Would the people of the other seas care about the circumstances of the battle? They would only see Tai Feng's sea region casually sending 2 or 3 people to defeat all of them. Is that all? Meteor explosion! Yishuwen's clothes fluttered under the impact of the fist energy. However, his face remained calm as if nothing had happened in front of him. He took a step forward, and an innumerable amount of star power gushed out from the microcosm inside his body. It wrapped around his hand, and quickly took the shape of a huge star. The invisible fist intent spread out instantly, and suddenly the surrounding became a cosmic void. Yishuwen was the only real body standing in the universe. Pang Tiangan, who blasted over, was like a peerless emperor, smashing this cosmic void into slag, crushing, and completely squeezing it. Tyrannical fist? If you are considered a tyrannical fist, then what about mine? Yishuwen grinned. Boom! Yishuwen's meteor explosion seemed to have condensed the power of countless stars into his fist. His fist ferociously collided with Pang Tiangan's fist, and the inexhaustible power of the stars suddenly exploded. Like a nuclear bomb exploding, the terrifying star power turned into a terrifying shock wave and engulfed everything in front of it. Bang! That peerless emperor's phantom collapsed on the spot under Yishuwen's star power. However, the terrifying star power didn't show any signs of stopping. Instead, it bombarded Pang Tiangan's body. Ah! Pang Tiangan screamed. His whole arm, which was as thick as Yishuwen's thigh, suddenly exploded, and blood splashed out. He quickly rushed back frantically, and barely avoided Yishuwen's fist strength. Otherwise, his whole body would have been blasted to death by Yishuwen's fist strength. There was a dead silence. Everyone present was stunned and kept silent. In fact, many people present had heard of Pang Tiangan's name. In Tai Feng Sea region, he was also one of the top geniuses. He was a top heaven's pride. In the flourished Cloud Sea region, he was a first-class character like Pei Xingqian and Crown Prince Crocodile. Moreover, he was cruel and merciless. Those who were his enemies were usually lucky to have a broken arm or a leg. But now, his whole arm was blasted by Yishuwen's punch. Everyone clearly saw that if he did not dodge quickly, he would have died in Yishuwen's hands. This Sea Dragon young master also looked at Yishuwen with a surprised face. Although Yishuwen went on the stage with his consent, in his opinion, no matter how strong Yishuwen was, he was at most on par with Pang Tiangan. Ordinary people might not have a deep understanding of Pang Tiangan, but Sea Dragon young master knew it very well. As the leader of the flourished Cloud Sea region, he often fought with experts from other regions. Pang Tiangan was one of them. Those experts who had their limbs broken by Sea Dragon Young Master were all experts of the older generation. Each of them was once all-powerful, but in Sea Dragon Young Master's hands, they were simply vulnerable. In his current state of serious injury, Sea Dragon Young Master was most likely not Pang Tiangon's opponent. That was why he agreed to let Yixuan fight, but he did not expect Yixuan to be so strong. At this time, Pei Xingchen also looked at Yixuan in disbelief. Although he had long seen that Yixuan most likely had a trump card, he did not expect that Yixuan could blast Pang Tiangon with one punch. What kind of move is this? How can it be so terrifying? At this time, everyone finally spoke up. It was hard to imagine that this move was really terrifying. Especially the experts of the Vanishing Shadow Poisonous Crocodile Clan and the Poisonous Flaming Dragon Clan. At this time, they looked at Yixuan with a pale face. Yixuan was more terrifying than they imagined. No wonder the Poisonous Young Master, Crown Prince Crocodile, and later Crocodile Shadow were defeated in his hands one after another. Moreover, it was not an ordinary defeat. There was almost no deterrence from beginning to end. They could not shake Yixuan's initiative advantage at all. It turned out that Yixuan still had such a trump card and power. Let alone Pang Tiangon, even the Poisonous Young Master and Crocodile Shadow would not fare well facing this meteor explosion at the beginning. There was only Pang Tiangon screaming in front of Yixuan. His eyes looking at Yixuan were full of fear. At this time, he remembered what Yixuan said before. If his was considered a tyrant fist, then what was Yixuan's meteor explosion? He couldn't help but feel a little frightened. The round just now directly shattered all his confidence in his Sea Emperor Tyrant Fist. In fact, he had always taken the route of suppressing others with strength. He had always been the one suppressing others. It was not that he had never failed, but it was the first time someone defeated him with such a domineering fighting style. Yixuan sneered in the face of everyone's gazes. Others might not know, but he knew. He had blasted out the meteor explosion in order to deter everyone. It would have been fine if the other party had played tricks with him. But it was just a face-to-face bombardment. How could he be compared with Yixuan, who had cultivated the tyrant body? It was not what ordinary people could imagine at all. If Pang Tiangon didn't run fast, he would have been blown up by a punch. And this was Yixuan's true strength. The feeling of not needing to worry about casualties made Yixuan have a hearty feeling. He almost couldn't help but roar on the spot. The tyrannical mood hidden in the depths of his bloodline rushed to his brain again, almost dominating his brain's actions. Suddenly, the Mingxin ancient tree in his body immediately emitted a colorful light, suppressing this tyrannical mood, keeping his brain in a clear state at all times. Yixuan sneered and said, "Is this the level of the Taifeng Sea region? TSK, you can't even beat a nobody like me. I'm really speechless. With this level, the Taifeng Sea region still wants to annex my Flourish Cloud Sea region? You'd better save your breath. It's better to clean up and surrender to my Flourish Cloud Sea region." Yixuan's words suddenly made countless warriors who were paying attention to this battle laugh out loud. Because the Taifeng Sea region wanted to annex the Flourish Cloud Sea region several times, the two sides also had many conflicts. Whether it was the human clan or the sea clan, no one had a good impression of them. Chapter 1023. It could even be said that they were very hostile. Even if the entire Flourish Cloud Sea region surrendered, they were the least likely group of people to surrender. When they were in the Flourish Cloud Sea region, they were the top figures of the major forces. They could summon the wind and summon the rain. They could get whatever they wanted. However, if they were annexed by the Taifeng Sea region, they would at most become a group of stray dogs. How could they not understand this truth? Therefore, they had always been the vanguard of the Taifeng Sea region's hostility. At this time, after hearing Yixuan's words, they suddenly laughed. Whether they liked Yixuan or not, at least at this time, their position was the same. They were all united against the outsiders. Pang Tiangon's complexion alternated between green and white as he heard Yixuan's words. He opened his mouth, but couldn't say anything because he had suffered a crushing defeat in Yishuan's hands. It was useless to quibble. It didn't matter how many so-called lucky coincidences were involved. It was useless because the public wouldn't pay attention to the twists and turns. They would only look at the final result. It was precisely because of this characteristic that they dared to fight so arrogantly. Useless trash! The Three Wonders boy looked at Pang Tiangan disdainfully. He seemed to be disdainful that Pang Tiangan could not even block one move from Yishuan. What did you say? Pang Tiangan suddenly pulled a long face and shouted. He was defeated by Yishuan. He had nothing to say. The punch just now was too terrifying. Yishuan's fist was more overbearing and invincible than him. However, the little dwarf in front of him was nothing. These Heaven's Pride experts were originally not convinced with each other. How could they show weakness at this time? I said that you are trash. You can't even block one move from him. I really feel ashamed for you. The Three Wonders boy sneered and continued. He did not have the slightest intention to reconcile. Then, are you going to fight with me here? Pang Tiangan said angrily. He was already very annoyed that Yishuan crippled one of his arms. The words of the Three Wonders boy were tantamount to adding fuel to the fire. It suddenly provoked Pang Tiangan's anger. Let's fight. Do you think I am afraid of you? Said the Three Wonders boy, not to be outdone. Seeing that the two people from the Taifeng Sea region were about to fall into an internal conflict, the frosty woman, Yan Shuran, suddenly interjected and said, Are you going to make a fool of yourself in front of these flourished Cloud Sea region people? At this time, the two of them gave up resentfully. Just like the flourished Cloud Sea region, the Taifeng Sea region was also the same. It was divided into many forces, large and small. Pang Tiangan and Sanmiao Boy came from different forces. Once there was any disturbance, this kind of contradiction would erupt at once. Forget it. Since this trash can't beat you, then let me do it. Sanmiao Boy looked at Yishuan and said provocatively. Shameless! First, you made use of the fact that we are all injured. Then, you plan to take turns to wear us down. Is the Taifeng Sea region filled with such trash? I have truly learned. At this time, Pei Xingqian sneered. He could see that Yishuan had killed Pang Tiangan in one move. However, this move had consumed a lot of energy. It was most likely a trump card or a secret art. At this time, he naturally couldn't let them fight one after another. It doesn't matter. I'm just dealing with a few nameless juniors. It's not a big deal. Yishuan seemed to want to fight with the other party today. He said with a sneer directly. He didn't care that Sanmiao Boy's face had turned pale. Then, let me test your strength. Sanmiao Boy grinned. Two huge axes suddenly appeared in his hands. When they stood upright, they were taller than him. It looked like a monkey wielding a broadsword. It was abnormally funny. Although it looked comical, the two axes in the hands of the Three Wonders boy were wielding them with an impressive might and a threatening cold light. Swish! Swish! The two axes directly slashed out two white streaks, slashing down toward Yishuan in the air. Although these two axes were huge, in fact, they were extremely fast in the hands of Sanmiao Boy. Moreover, it was one axe after another. His moves were perfect and proficient. These two axes did not look as funny in the hands of Sanmiao Boy. Yishuan did not hesitate. A flame burned in his hand. In an instant, it turned into a flame and suddenly slashed down toward Sanmiao Boy. Boom! Yishuan's fiery saber aura and the two huge axes collided on the spot. It directly set off an endless shockwave. The shockwave swept out in all directions, rolling up a hurricane. Jia! Sanmiao Boy directly pulled back a huge axe. He waved the second axe and directly slashed down toward Yishuan. This huge axe was incomparably sharp, and the air was cleaved into two halves by it. Its speed was incomparably fast, and everyone could only see a flash of cold light. That huge axe had already passed through the flaming long blade, and was about to fall on Yishuan's face. Humph! At the same time that the cold light was about to hit Yishuan's face, Yishuan finally exerted his strength. He did not directly return to help. Instead, he directly increased the output of the real elemental energy in his hands. The infusion of countless real elemental energy suddenly caused the fiery saber to suddenly boil. Countless flames began to burn in an instant and exploded. The sweeping power immediately passed through the other huge axe to San Miao Boy. Although San Miao Boy's attack speed was extremely fast, how could he be compared with Yishiwen in terms of strength? No matter how unwilling San Miao Boy was, his body was directly blasted away by Yishiwen. The cold light that was originally approaching Yishiwen was also instantly withdrawn as if it had never existed. San Miao Boy spurted out a mouthful of blood in midair. He was injured by Yishiwen's saber intention. His eyes were filled with inexplicable horror. He had been through hundreds of battles since he grew up, but he had never seen such a terrifying monstrous power. Generally speaking, even if the demon beasts were powerful, their speed would certainly not be fast. Yishiwen's strength could completely defeat Pang Tiangan, and his speed could make him helpless. He was simply a monster. San Miao Boy only had such a feeling of powerlessness when facing one person. That person was the number one person in their Taifeng Sea region, Edge Cloud. At this moment, a figure appeared in front of him again. It was Yishiwen. After the first blow, Yishiwen did not stop at all and once again slashed his saber. Boom! San Miao Boy was slashed on the spot. If he didn't raise his hand to block the saber blade with his axe, he might have been slashed in half at this time. Puff! San Miao Boy spurted out a mouthful of blood and fainted directly. There was another deathly silence. San Miao Tongzi's performance seemed to be much better than Pang Tiangan's. However, it was only a difference of 1 or 2 moves. In the eyes of the crowd, there was no difference. All of this proved that they were simply vulnerable in front of Yishiwen. They were not Yishiwen's opponent at all. At this time, thinking about their previous arrogant words, it seemed so ridiculous. The world would only pity the true powerhouse. The arrogance of the powerhouse was confidence, while the arrogance of the weak was arrogance. Now, in the eyes of everyone, it was clear who was confident and who was arrogant. This kid is already invincible in the transcendent realm. Pei Xingqian had to swallow a mouthful of saliva with difficulty, barely suppressing the shock in his heart. He had long known Yishiwen's strength. If Yishiwen was not strong enough, how could he kill Crown Prince Crocodile? What shocked him even more was Yishiwen's amazing growth speed. When he first saw Yishiwen outside the demon subduing tower, Yishiwen was only able to fight with Crown Prince Crocodile. However, it didn't take long for the news that Yishiwen killed Crown Prince Crocodile. In other words, Yishiwen's combat power was already above Crown Prince Crocodile at that time. Now, Yishiwen could easily defeat Pang Tiangan and San Miao Boy, who were similar to them in strength, or even stronger than them. It was almost an instant kill. They had no power to fight back at all. The growth speed of these geniuses was already extremely fast in the eyes of outsiders. However, compared with Yishiwen's growth speed, it was nothing at all. Especially in comparison, just a few years ago, when Yishiwen first appeared, his strength was nothing. Thinking of this, Pei Xingqian took a breath of cold air. Mother *Ker, what kind of geniuses are we? This is the real genius. At this time, not only Pei Xingqian was shocked, but other warriors were also the same. Whether it was Pang Tiangan or San Miao Boy, they were not weak. Among the audience present, even the veteran Transcendent Realm 9th level warriors would find it difficult to defeat Pang Tiangan and San Miao Boy. It was hard to say how many moves they could withstand. However, such a powerful expert was only 1 or 2 moves in Yishiwen's hands. The same thought popped into everyone's mind at the same time. He was already invincible in the Transcendent Realm. Unless it was a half-step law manifestation realm expert, no one had the confidence to defeat this genius. The most terrifying thing was that this person was not at the Transcendent Realm 9th level. He was only at the Transcendent Realm 6th level. If he grew to the Transcendent Realm 9th level, wouldn't he be able to go against the law manifestation realm? This man must not be left alive. many Vanishing Shadow Poisonous Crocodile Clan experts and Poisonous Flaming Dragon Clan experts had such thoughts at this time. After going back, we must inform the clan leader. At all costs, we must eliminate this danger in the cradle. We can't let this man grow up. Otherwise, he will be a big trouble. Compared with the Vanishing Shadow Poisonous Crocodile Clan and Poisonous Flaming Dragon Clan experts who had mixed feelings, most people just cheered after the shock. No matter what, Yishiwen now represented their flourished Cloud Sea region. Chapter 1024. The stronger Yishiwen's strength was, the more respect they would have. Yishiwen slowly floated down and said faintly, "Ant-like human? You are worse than an ant. You are just a piece of trash." At this time, everyone finally understood why Yishiwen suddenly stood up for the flourished Cloud Sea region. It was because of the ant-like human that Sanyao Boy mentioned. At that time, the human clan masters present were also indignant. However, the series of events that happened later made this sentence quickly forgotten. They did not expect Yishiwen to still remember it. He was really a vengeful person. The scary thing was not that this person was vengeful. The scary thing was that while this person was vengeful, he had a vengeful character. What was even more terrifying was that this person not only had a vengeful character, but also had the strength to do so. Didn't you say that the human clan was like an ant? Now that I have beaten you up like a dead dog, you are nothing. At this time, many experts of the human race only felt refreshed. Yes, the human race is like an ant? You are just a dead dog now. What qualifications do you have to say anything? Many warriors who were not very pleasing to the eye initially changed their opinions at this time. This kid was still very good. Relatively speaking, the complexions of those sea race experts didn't look so good. These experts had come from the Taifeng Sea area. However, they were also members of the sea race. Yishiwen had tidied them up like a dead dog. So, they had lost face even though they were also members of the sea race. Do you want to come together? Yishiwen looked at Yen Shuran and said, "Your strength is not bad. You are qualified to be my opponent." Yen Shuran said this sentence slowly. It seemed that she did not take Yishiwen, who easily defeated her two companions, seriously. A very delicate long sword appeared in her hand. Her figure was like a bolt of lightning. She leaped high into the air, and pounced on Yishiwen. She stretched out the long sword in her hand, and threw it out like a waterfall. It then chopped down from the sky. Fast. 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 This wave of attack did not have any other tricks. The only characteristic was speed, speed, and speed. It was faster than everyone's reaction speed. Compared to this speed, the previous attack of Three Wonders Boy was as slow as a turtle crawling. It was simply impossible to cause any damage to Yishiwen. The sword light was just like a waterfall, chopping down at an incomparably fast speed. Yishiwen could already feel the strange sensation of the sword intention pouncing on his forehead. It felt as if it could split a person in half on the spot. He finally moved. Compared to Yen Shuren's movements, his speed was much faster. As soon as he made his move, the sky was filled with flaming saber chi. He was fast and powerful. As soon as he made his move, he instantly broke the incoming sword light. Then, the flaming long saber did not lose its momentum and directly slashed towards Yen Shuran. It was a very ordinary move, but it had great power. Previously, Sanmiao Tongzi was defeated by this move. The essence of this move was speed. It was so fast that you couldn't react, and before you could react, you would be completely defeated. It looked like an ordinary move, but behind it was an absolute gap in strength. If not for such an absolute gap, how could he have such speed? Not good! At this time, Yen Shuren's expression suddenly changed. She did not expect Yishiwen's speed to be so fast. Previously, as an outsider, there was no way to truly feel how fast Yishiwen was. It was hard for her to imagine how a human's speed could be so fast to such a terrifying extent. The human race was a notoriously mediocre race. Except for a small number of humans with special bloodlines, most of the human race were notoriously mediocre. In other words, there was no special talent. She could only have such speed after awakening her bloodline. What kind of martial technique did this human in front of her practice to be so fast? But at this time, there was no time for her to think too much. The long sword in her hand once again slashed out like a waterfall, blocking Yi Shiwen's falling saber chi. Dang! The saber chi and the sword collided fiercely in midair, bursting out a terrifying light. Endless saber chi and sword chi directly collided in midair, sweeping out a terrifying shock wave. Humph! The fiery long saber in Yi Shiwen's hand suddenly began to burn fiercely again. The vigorous chi in Yi Shiwen's body also completely broke out. After integrating the Star Beast's bloodline, his chi was far superior to ordinary people. He did not have to be stingy with chi in his usual battles. The fiery long saber instantly pressed on the long sword, and instantly blasted into her body. Puff! Yen Shuren suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood, and her body flew out upside down. A huge blood mark was also slashed on her chest. In the collision of absolute strength, she was a complete mess. Even in terms of speed, she did not have an advantage at all. Yi Shiwen's figure was horizontally in midair, holding a long saber that was burning fiercely. He was like a peerless god, as if he could penetrate the world with just a glance. Defeated again, defeated again. Seeing that Yen Shuren was defeated in the hands of Yi Shiwen again, everyone seemed to be a little numb. The three people in the Typhoon Sea region were stronger and more tyrannical than the previous one. They were simply more difficult to deal with than the previous one. However, they were not Yi Shiwen's opponent at all. One move, one move, one move. Although Yen Shuren seemed to be much more powerful than the Three Wonders boy, at least when facing Yi Shiwen, she was no longer powerless to fight back. However, it was useless. In the competition of absolute strength, she was completely at a disadvantage, making her speed completely useless. This kid is really a freak. He has no weaknesses and shortcomings at all. Pei Xingqian could not help but say in amazement. He could see clearly, and it was very clear that Yen Shuren was not too weak. Just by relying on her speed, she would be able to move unhindered amongst the younger generation. Even if he were to encounter her speed, he would not be any better off. If he did not have a way to block her, he would probably end up in a situation where he would most likely lose. However, she encountered a freak like Yi Shiwen. His speed was not inferior to Yen Shuren's, and his strength was even more overwhelming than Yen Shuren's. This made Yen Shuren so embarrassed. Boom! Yen Shuren directly blasted a big hole in the ground. A burst of sand and stones flew, and smoke rose up. You have angered me. You have completely angered me. Yen Shuren's cold voice came from the hole. The cold tone in her words seemed to have cooled down a lot in the dog days of the summer. The smoke and dust dissipated, and the scene in the hole was finally revealed. Yen Shuren seemed to have completely stimulated her bloodline at this time. Her whole body was covered with a layer of snow-white ice crystal-like scales. She looked like an ice sculpture, beautiful beyond compare. A long sword slowly danced in her hand. Along with the constant fluctuations of her body's chi, a thin layer of ice crystals began to spread in all directions at lightning speed with her as the center. She was like a goddess of ice and snow in the midst of the ice crystals. You are very strong. Hee hee! Yen Shuren laughed strangely. There was a trace of blood red in her eyes as if she had fallen into madness. You will become my most beautiful ice sculpture. You will be buried in my world of ice and snow forever. False territory! Yi Shiwen judged in an instant. After all, this thin layer of ice and snow that spread out was the false territory. It should be said that it was Yen Shuren's ice and snow territory. As this world of ice and snow spread out, everyone looked over and saw hundreds of ice sculptures appearing in the world of ice and snow. They had different expressions. There were humans, sea clans, and sea demon clans. But without exception, all of them had a horrified look. They were actually the opponents who had been defeated by her. Now, without exception, they had become her ice sculptures. "These are all your opponents?" Yishuan asked faintly, without the slightest change in his expression. "Yes, these are the people who have hurt me or tried to hurt me. I want them to atone for their sins forever, and you will soon accompany them." "Ha ha!" Yan Shuran laughed loudly. Before her voice fell, her figure had already rushed in front of Yishuan. Yishuan could only see her figure flickering, and then she had already arrived in front of him. Her sword light was like a waterfall, and in this ice crystal-like world, it was covered by the endless snow-white rays of light, and almost couldn't be seen by anyone. The speed was so fast. In an instant, it went straight to Yishuan's throat. She wanted to kill him completely in one blow. Yishuan quickly stepped on his feet and avoided this almost invisible sword light, but he was still wrapped in the false territory of ice crystals. Suddenly, he was drenched in cold sweat. After launching the false territory, Yan Shuran's speed suddenly increased several times. It was almost like teleportation. She was still far away, but she rushed over in an instant. Even his eyes were only able to catch a glimpse of a flickering figure. One could imagine just how fast this speed was. But he didn't have time to think about why Yan Shuran's speed was so fast. He only felt a crash, and the snowstorm in the sky suddenly rolled over him. It was as if it wanted to freeze him into an ice sculpture at that moment, just like the hundreds of ice sculptures and snowmen that Yishuan saw just now. Yishuan did not hesitate immediately. He urged the fiery saber aura, and instantly formed a layer of flame coat on his body. The snowstorm that blew over would be annihilated in an instant. It was not evaporated, but it was really annihilated and disappeared completely. Shwa! Another white sword light, hidden in the snowstorm, pierced towards him. Chapter 1025. If there was anything special about this sword, it would be its speed. It was so fast that it seemed to teleport. However, Yishuan quickly denied the possibility of teleportation because there were no spatial fluctuations. As long as one teleported, there would definitely be spatial fluctuations. This was inevitable, and no one was an exception. Although Yishuan couldn't tear the space in the ancient Baron's continent, it didn't mean that he couldn't feel spatial fluctuations. In other words, this was pure speed. However, the speed was so fast that even Yishuan was shocked. One could well imagine how fast this speed was. Yishuan quickly chopped out a blade light and deflected the incoming sword light in one fell swoop. "What a fast speed!" Pei Xingqian exclaimed on the side. Only Yishuan could keep up with such speed. If it were him, he might not be able to withstand it. "Her speed is even faster after activating her bloodline. She's like a white lightning. It's because of the snow-covered areas in her domain." Young Master Sea Dragon barely suppressed his injuries and said, "Do you see those ice crystals? With the reflection of the ice crystals, she can move quickly, even at a speed close to the speed of light." Everyone came to a sudden realization. Among the top 100, only a few had condensed the domain. Young Master Sea Dragon was one of them, so he naturally had a lot of authority. Beside him, Jian Wushuang also nodded. His sword principal realm was also very strong. It should be said that although they were both realms, their characteristics were not the same. Although his sword principal realm was also very fast, it was not focused on that. The most powerful part of his sword principal realm was its sharp attack. "Admit defeat. From the moment you force me to use my domain, you are destined to fail," said Yan Shuran coldly. No one knew better than her how powerful her domain of ice and snow was. Although it was an ice and snow domain, it wasn't like an ordinary ice and snow domain. Instead, its specialty was speed, extreme speed. With the help of the reflection of the ice crystals, her speed could reach the extreme. In the same realm, there were very few people who could stop her speed. Although they were all Transcendent Realm 9th level geniuses, she was vaguely the leader of the three. The other two had to follow her lead and respect her. "Is it using the ice crystal as a base for movement?" Yi Shiwen was very experienced. It could be said that he had experienced hundreds of battles. He immediately saw the characteristics of this domain. The snowstorm was nothing. It couldn't penetrate Yi Shiwen's protective flames. However, Yanshuren's strange speed was quite a headache for him. Humph, that's all there is to you, Yi Shiwen sneered. Even if it was fast, it couldn't be faster than Yi Shiwen. This speed had given him quite a headache, and he had no choice but to go all out. However, it wasn't enough to kill him. Since these ice crystals are the basis of movement, then break them for me, Yi Shiwen shouted loudly. The flame in his hand transformed into a long blade, which instantly took shape. Then, he directly pounced towards Yanshuren and launched a counterattack. The long saber cut through the air and shot out explosively, chasing after Yanshuren, who had turned into a white light. Yanshuren's speed was very fast. She was using the ice crystals as the base of her movement. However, Yi Shiwen's speed was incomparably fast. Boom! The long blade swept past Yanshuren's side, almost cutting her, but it still didn't cut her. Crack! A huge crack that was hundreds of meters long instantly appeared in the entire ice crystal world. It looked terrifying. Yi Shiwen wasn't discouraged at all when he missed his attack. He immediately slashed down with his saber. Boom! Another huge crack was cut open. The situation was completely under Yi Shiwen's control. Although Yanshuren's speed was very fast, Yi Shiwen's speed wasn't slow at all. Even in Yanshuren's domain, he wasn't inferior at all. Boom! 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 The two fought extremely fast. They had exchanged more than 1,000 moves in an instant. However, there seemed to be no sign of victory or defeat between the two sides. Yi Shiwen's every move was powerful and heavy. Every saber seemed to be able to cut through the world. However, Yanshuren looked as if he would leave as soon as he touched Yi Shiwen's body. He had never fought recklessly with Yi Shiwen. Obviously, he could see that Yi Shiwen's strength was extraordinary. So, he would certainly suffer a loss if he fought recklessly with him. However, people gradually discovered that something was wrong. Yanshuren's speed was declining. Logically speaking, these experts had already reached the Transcendent Realm 9th level. Even if they fought for a day and night, it would be difficult to exhaust their chi unless they continuously unleashed some ultimate moves. But the fact was that Yanshuren's speed was getting slower and slower. At first, she could still dodge Yi Shiwen's attacks with ease. But slowly, her speed began to slow down. She could only dodge the last few attacks by a hair's breadth. Her speed has slowed down. Pei Xingqian saw it clearly. Initially, it was difficult for him to capture Yanshuren's speed. But now, he could capture it with his naked eye. The gap between them was conceivable. Because her false domain is almost destroyed by Yi Shiwen, said young Master Sea Serpent faintly. He clearly saw Yi Shiwen's plan as if he was watching a fire from the other side of the river. He admired Yi Shiwen in his heart. Yi Shiwen's move sounded simple, as if anyone could do it. As long as the ice crystal world was destroyed, Yanshuren's speed would inevitably be reduced. But how many could do it? If it were him, he could only activate his own domain to resist. It was impossible to destroy it with brute force like Yi Shiwen without even activating his domain. Only someone with speed and strength like Yi Shiwen could do it. When everyone heard young Master Sea Serpent's words, they immediately looked at it. Sure enough, after thousands of moves, the original snowy world had been almost destroyed. It could even be said to be riddled with holes, with loopholes everywhere. On the other hand, Yanshuren had also noticed this problem, especially after her speed dropped severely. Even if she knew that there was no way, she did not dare to stop. Because once she stopped, she would definitely be slashed by Yi Shiwen. He was like a monster. After more than 1,000 moves, his face was still not red and his heart was not beating. It was as if these 1,000 moves did not consume any energy at all. "It's time to stop here," said Yi Shiwen softly. He suddenly stepped forward and turned into a golden light. As if teleporting, he appeared in front of Yanshuren in an instant. Yanshuren's speed was very fast, but it depended on the foundation of the ice crystal world. In the case where the ice crystal world was almost destroyed by Yishiwen, there was no way to exert her speed to the peak. Bang! The fiery saber aura in Yishiwen's hand instantly slashed on Yanshuren's body. Puff! This time, she could not escape Yishiwen's fiery saber aura. She directly spurted a mouthful of blood, hit the ground heavily, and fainted directly. No one knew whether she was dead or alive. Shuran! Pang Tiangon shouted. At this time, among the experts in the Taifeng Sea region, only he was still awake. The other two were directly knocked out by Yishiwen. Quickly take the two of them and get lost, said Yishiwen faintly. Pang Tiangon's complexion alternated between green and white as he looked at Yishiwen. He didn't know what to say. They had come in an aggressive and majestic manner to stir up trouble. However, they had suffered a crushing defeat in the end. They hadn't even dreamt of this outcome. The strength that they were so proud of seemed so vulnerable in front of Yishiwen. Although they were unwilling, there was no other way. They could only take the two of them and directly disappeared into the sky. When Pang Tiangon left with the two who had fainted, everyone in the field suddenly burst into an uproar. This is too powerful. This is Yishiwen's true strength. Originally, I thought that he could only win the championship by taking advantage of young Master Hailong's injury. But now I don't think so. Even if young Master Hailong wasn't injured, I'm afraid he might not be Yishiwen's opponent. Yeah, any of these three people can be said to be invincible in the transcendent realm, but in front of Yishiwen, they are like paper tigers. They are not his opponent at all. Countless people were lamenting how high Yishiwen's strength had reached. Many people even guessed whether he could already defeat the half-step law manifestation realm experts. It looked too scary. I didn't expect this boy to grow to such a point. He can't be left alive. This was the thought of the experts and elders of the Vanishing Shadow Poisonous Crocodile Clan and Poisonous Flaming Dragon Clan. Yishiwen's growth speed was beyond their imagination. He had been listed as a target to be killed. Such a person would undoubtedly be a great threat to them if he grew up. They must never let him grow up. I still want to find a chance to fight with this kid in the future. Now it seems unnecessary. I am not his opponent. At this time, Pei Xingqian said with emotion. He didn't expect Yishiwen's progress to be so fast. Even if he was confident, he was not confident that he could be Yishiwen's opponent at this time. I now know why the higher-ups are willing to shed all pretense of cordiality with the Sea Clan to protect him. You mean the Blood Realm trial? Pei Xingqian said with a grin. Is there any other reason? Young Master Hailong glanced at him and said, Our Flourish Cloud Sea region has been quiet for too long. I don't know if it is a good thing or a bad thing. It's definitely a good thing. The more experts we have in our clan, the better it will be. This time's trial of the Blood World might be different. The name of the Blood World trial wasn't only because of the environment in the Blood World, but also because of the cruel process of the trial. Those who survived in the end had a huge improvement compared to before entering the Blood Realm trial. In some people's words, it was like raising venomous insects. In the cruelest environment, these young experts would be honed. Only the venomous insect king could stand out. Even though every trip to the Blood Realm would result in heavy losses, or even total annihilation, every sea region would send their most elite disciples to the Blood Realm every time the trial of the Blood Realm started. The reason was very simple. It was not that they could not go, but if they did not go, then there would be a huge gap compared to the younger generation of other sea regions. With such a gap from generation to generation, it would form an absolute gap in strength between sea regions. Now, in the endless sea region, the sea regions that could be considered super and large were all outstanding in the Blood Realm trial. After countless years of accumulation, they finally succeeded in standing out among the many sea regions. Therefore, even if they knew that they would suffer heavy losses, no sea region would give up on the opportunity to enter the World of Blood trial. Even among the various sea regions, no one would give up on this opportunity because once the heirs of other forces returned from the world of blood trial, their strength would be suppressed. 1 or 2 generations might not be a big deal, but over time, a huge gap would form. As for the trial of the blood world, after hundreds of years, it was once again mentioned by everyone. Every few hundred years, it was also the time when the younger generation matured. Every few hundred years, there would be a wave of the younger generation maturing and entering the trial of the blood world, which was even more cruel. At that time, many experts from the flourished Cloud Sea region would participate. Not only the experts on the top 100 list, but also the hidden experts of various clans and some experts who did not participate in the top 100 list competition at all. Many people simply didn't care about the glory of the top 100 list. However, everyone was very concerned about the trial of blood because they didn't have the qualifications to be disdainful. In the trial of blood, the geniuses of various sea domains would fiercely clash. In other words, geniuses were like venomous insects, using their blood to train their martial arts. Only a few of them were able to stand out from the crowd. However, no matter how chaotic the outside world was, it had nothing to do with Yishiwen. For him, the most important thing was to enter the Transcendent Realm's 7th level. Yishiwen's accumulation was very deep, far deeper than the average person. For him, entering the Transcendent Realm's 7th level was not a problem, but he was concerned about how to achieve leapfrog progress in combat power. If it was simply to enter the Transcendent Realm's 7th level, he could have done it a long time ago, but he did not. Although his combat power would still be improved, it was definitely not leapfrog. At most, he would continue to dominate the Transcendent Realm 9th level. He could not truly contend with half-step law manifestation experts. Even if he could not break through the half-step law manifestation combat power, it would not be a big deal. However, he could not do so now. The reason was simple. He knew very well that after this top 100 competition, he would become a thorn in the eyes of the vanishing shadow poisonous crocodile clan and poisonous flaming dragon clan. They wanted to kill him as soon as possible. Now that he was hiding in the Guiyuan sect, they could not do anything to him for the time being. However, it did not mean that they would always let him exist. It could even be said that as long as he showed his face, he would definitely be hunted down. At that time, there might be a law manifestation expert making a move. If Yishiwen's strength was still limited to the Transcendent Realm, he might die without a burial place. Thinking of the many law manifestation experts of the poisonous flaming dragon clan and the vanishing shadow poisonous crocodile clan, Yishiwen could not calm his heart. What's more, this blood realm trial was also an unusually bloody journey. He also heard from the Guiyuan sect's higher-ups about the blood realm trial. This time, the reason why the Guiyuan sect risked falling out with the vanishing shadow poisonous crocodile clan to protect Yishiwen was because of the blood realm trial. The blood realm trial was only held once in hundreds of years. Countless geniuses grew up and had to face this trial. However, the human experts in the flourished Cloud Sea region had not gained too many benefits from the blood realm trial for a long time. In other words, it was difficult for them to even protect themselves. In the Endless Sea region, the human clan did not have an advantage. It was the sea clans that truly ruled the Endless Sea region. In the blood realm trial, the human clan had never had an advantage. Especially in the small sea region like the flourished Cloud Sea region, the human clan had become the target of all parties. Fortunately, there were a lot of experts this time. If it were in the past, it was already amazing to have a Transcendent Realm 9th level expert. This time, there were so many in a row. There were even young Master Sea Dragon and Yishiwen, who had high hopes for the younger generation. Many people were full of confidence for this blood realm trial. They also hoped that Yishiwen could take care of the Guiyuan sect's geniuses and disciples in the blood realm trial. In other words, entering the blood realm trial with the identity of the flourished Cloud Sea region's number 1 among the younger generation, he would most likely have to face several unfriendly sea regions, such as the Typhoon Sea region. At that time, he might face a series of bloody battles. In particular, the Typhoon Sea region was eyeing the flourished Cloud Sea region covetously. Yi Shiwen didn't know what kind of tricks they would come up with. Yan Shuran and others had already entered the Transcendent Realm 9th level peak. How powerful would the Typhoon Sea region's number 1, Edge Cloud, be? Yi Shiwen once asked young Master Sea Dragon, but the answer he received was that he was not Edge Cloud's opponent. In other words, Edge Cloud might have already entered the half-step law manifestation realm. All of this forced Yi Shiwen to go all out. Yi Shiwen had improved his combat power to the point where he could contend with the half-step law manifestation realm initial. By then, he would be qualified to protect himself in the entire Blood Realm trial. The difficulty of contending with the half-step law manifestation realm initial with the strength of Transcendent Realm 7th level was imaginable. Yi Shiwen delayed entering the Transcendent Realm 7th level because he was constantly compressing his strength to provide room for further improvement in his strength. A little. Yi Shiwen temporarily put aside the disturbances of the outside world. In his heart, there was only cultivation left. In the blink of an eye, 5 years had passed in the blink of an eye. For 5 years, he had been constantly suppressing and breaking through. Finally, a year ago, he successfully entered the Transcendent Realm 7th level. However, after entering the Transcendent Realm 7th level, he did not exit immediately but chose to continue cultivating. But now, he had to exit. There was no other reason. The Blood Realm trial was about to begin. Even he had to exit. In the secret chamber, Yi Shiwen slowly pushed open the door, and a gust of fresh air hit his face. Blood Realm trial. I'm here. Chapter 1027. Yi Shiwen was the last to exit his cultivation. At this time, the Ge Yuan sect's members were already ready to depart. They were just waiting for Yi Shiwen to exit his cultivation. Yi Shiwen wasn't familiar with the Ge Yuan sect. The only person he was familiar with was Pei Xingqian. 5 years had passed, and Pei Xingqian's aura had become more restrained. He was no longer as ostentatious as 5 years ago. In other words, he was now able to control the Transcendent Realm 9th level's power very well. If Pei Xingqian was like an unsheathed sword 5 years ago, then the sword had returned to its sheath now. His aura was even more stable, and he could enter the half-step law manifestation realm initial at any time. The only thing he lacked was some opportunities. The Blood World trial this time would definitely yield a huge harvest. Looking at you, kid, I have no intention of competing with you anymore. Seeing Yi Shiwen's inadvertent aura, Pei Xingqian was completely speechless. In the past 5 years, he had made a lot of progress. He asked himself if he were to fight against Yi Shiwen 5 years ago, it would be hard to say who would win. However, 5 years had passed, and he had already made such progress. How could Yi Shiwen not have made any progress at all? The Blood World trial was a grand event that countless experts from the Endless Sea region participated in. However, the venue was not on the Ancient Barrens continent, but in another subspace, the Blood World. The Blood World had entrances everywhere in the Endless Sea region. Some sea regions even had 2 or 3 entrances. There was only one Blood World entrance in the flourished Cloud Sea region. It was located on an island. Usually, no one would come here. However, when the Blood World trial was held, all major forces would come here. Although the top 100 list didn't only consist of young disciples from major forces, there were also some individual cultivators. In fact, most of the participants were from major forces. The top 100 list covered most of the dominant forces in the flourished Cloud Sea region. At this time, all of them gathered at the Blood World entrance. One could imagine how spectacular it was. At this moment, a large number of young experts gathered on this small island, waiting for the entrance of the Blood World to open. They would enter the Blood World as soon as possible. The arrival of Ge Yuan sect and Yi Shiwen's group immediately attracted the attention of many people. Ge Yuan sect was one of the 6 overlords of the flourished Cloud Sea region. The disciples of Ge Yuan sect would be the focus of attention no matter where they went, let alone Yi Shiwen. As the new number 1 expert of the younger generation, he was naturally the focus of everyone's attention. After the release of the top 100 list, he had immediately become the focus of countless people's attention. Moreover, he had become the target that countless people of the younger generation were striving to catch up with. But in the past 5 years, Yi Shiwen seemed to have disappeared completely. There was no news at all. If it weren't for the news from Guiyuan sect that he was in close cultivation, many people even suspected that he had been killed by poisonous Flaming Dragon Clan and Vanishing Shadow Poisonous Crocodile Clan experts. This was not impossible. As Yi Shiwen became famous in the flourished Cloud Sea region, the grievances between him and the Vanishing Shadow Poisonous Crocodile Clan and Poisonous Flaming Dragon Clan had become a topic of conversation for many people. Everyone was very clear that these two sea race overlords would definitely seek revenge for the smallest grievance. Yi Shiwen had killed their Heaven's Pride expert. So, it would be strange if they didn't retaliate according to their temperament. However, Yi Shiwen had been sheltering in the Guiyuan sect for the past 5 years. Therefore, these two vengeful clans couldn't do anything about him. Otherwise, Yi Shiwen would have been found by these two clans even if he had hidden in the oceanic trenches. As soon as Yi Shiwen stepped onto the island, he immediately felt many hostile gazes sweeping over. There was no concealment at all. It was blatant on Yi Shiwen. It was none other than the experts of Poisonous Flaming Dragon Clan and Vanishing Shadow Poisonous Crocodile Clan. The experts of these two clans could not wait to skin Yi Shiwen alive and kill him completely. There's a good show to watch. Isn't that Yi Shiwen? Now the experts of Poisonous Flaming Dragon Clan and Vanishing Shadow Poisonous Crocodile Clan are also present. Will there be a war between the two sides? Hee. Poisonous Flaming Dragon Clan and Vanishing Shadow Poisonous Crocodile Clan have been dominating the flourished Cloud Sea region for many years. This time, they suffered a big loss in Yi Shiwen's hands, a warrior said with a smile. With their domineering style of doing things, how can they let it go? Yi Shiwen is also a lawless character. The Vanishing Shadow Poisonous Crocodile Clan and Poisonous Flaming Dragon Clan's Heaven's Pride were killed without any hesitation. But it's useless even if they have the intention. Yi Shiwen's strength is too terrifying. 5 years ago, I saw with my own eyes that those Transcendent Realm 9th level experts of Taifeng Sea region were beaten like dead dogs by him. Now that 5 years have passed, his strength is even more unfathomable. Unless someone among these pride has entered the half-step law manifestation realm, I'm afraid it is difficult to find someone who can compete with Yi Shiwen. That's impossible. If someone among them has entered the half-step law manifestation realm, there will be news. Elder Brother Yi! A slightly surprised voice came from a distance. Yi Shiwen turned his head and saw Bai Hanmo and Yao Qian. Haha, I knew it was you. No one is as cool as you. Bai Hanmo ran to Yi Shiwen's side and said excitedly. He didn't know many people in the flourished Cloud Sea region, and he had even fewer friends. Among them, Yi Shiwen was definitely the most important one. Is this cool? Yi Shiwen looked at the countless hostile, curious gazes around him. He was a little speechless. In his opinion, this was the source of trouble, but in the eyes of Bai Hanmo, this was just a performance to show off. Yao Qian was next to Bai Hanmo. 5 years had passed. Time did not leave any trace on her face, but she was more mature and dignified than 5 years ago. Yi Shiwen could tell at a glance that Yao Qian had entered the Transcendent Realm 9th level. Compared to the first time Yi Shiwen met Yao Qian 10 years ago, this progress was earth-shattering. Compared to Yao Qian, Bai Hanmo's progress was more obvious. His strength had already reached the Transcendent Realm 9th level peak. After the competition that day, he had entered the Transcendent Realm 9th level. In the past 5 years, he had reached the Transcendent Realm 9th level peak. At this time, he was not inferior to Pei Xingqian, Unparalleled Sword, and others. Hee, of course, it's cool. Except for you, no one can be cooler than you. Bai Hanmo said with a funny smile. Yi Shiwen had to admit that this kid's thinking was really different from most people. Elder Brother Yi. Yao Qian on the side also nodded with a smile. Brat Bai, let's find a place to spar later. Pei Xingqian suddenly interjected and said, This kid is too abnormal. I don't think I'm his opponent. It's not interesting to fight. Why don't we spar and see what progress you have made in the past 2 years? Hee, no problem. Don't scream when I beat you up. Bai Hanmo suddenly showed a look of congenial with Pei Xingqian. These two people with unreliable personalities became a pair of good friends. Are you familiar with each other? Yi Shiwen asked curiously. Yao Qian saw Yi Shiwen's puzzled look, so she explained. It turned out that during his 5 years of close cultivation, Bai Hanmo and Yao Qian were not smooth sailing. The Vanishing Shadow Poisonous Crocodile Clan and Poisonous Flaming Dragon Clan couldn't find Yi Shiwen, so they targeted the two of them. They wanted to kill them to vent their anger. Bai Hanmo himself was chased several times. It could be said that he escaped death several times. Once when Bai Hanmo was being chased, Pei Xingqian saved him. Since then, the two had been fighting fiercely. They were birds of a feather. However, it was also because of these pursuits and training that Bai Hanmo's cultivation could catch up so quickly. A few years ago, he was still a long way behind Pei Xingqian and the others. Now, he had completely caught up. But thinking about these two guys with unreliable personalities, it was really, Yi Shiwen didn't know how to describe it. Bai Hanmo had a childlike temperament. He was unsettled at all. For him, his worldview was very simple. Whoever was good to him was a good person. Whoever was bad to him was a bad person. Simple and clear. Pei Xingqian was also a carefree and cynical type. If one didn't know his strength, one would only think of him as a prodigal son. When these two came together, they were birds of a feather. Yi Shiwen shook his head and laughed. He didn't know what to say. On the other hand, these two were getting more and more lively. Suddenly, in the sky, a murderous intention flashed. Yi Shiwen's eyes suddenly flashed a trace of vigilance. Boom! Suddenly, a slender sword suddenly appeared in midair, blooming with a terrifying murderous intention, and chopped down straight towards Yi Shiwen. There's an assassin! At this time, everyone suddenly reacted, but it was too late. This sword light had completely turned into a waterfall, shrouding Yi Shiwen in it. Humph! Yi Shiwen snorted coldly. Golden light instantly appeared in his hands. He instantly tore into the air. Tear! There was a sound like a cloth being torn apart. The entire sword light was torn apart instantly. At this time, a black figure appeared in front of everyone. It was actually an assassin in black. Chapter 1028. There's an assassin! At this time, everyone finally realized that an assassin had sneaked onto this island. Everyone immediately became vigilant. Due to the tacit understanding of the major forces, these younger generation experts came alone this time. The older generation experts were not allowed to approach this island at all. This was the rule of the major forces for many years. It was not allowed to be broken. They were also afraid that the older generation experts would suddenly attack these younger generation experts. It was not unprecedented in the past. However, the appearance of an assassin at this time still shocked these young experts. Almost everyone present was the elites of the younger generation of major forces. Behind them stood almost all the experts who could speak in the flourished Cloud Sea region. Which assassin organization dared to kill here without any foresight? Not to mention making a move on them. Otherwise, they would face the wrath of the entire flourished Cloud Sea region. At that time, no matter what assassin organization it would be impossible to establish a foothold in the flourished Cloud Sea region. Which assassin organization was so bold and dared to provoke the tiger's whiskers? Wasn't this suicidal in the flourished Cloud Sea region? Humph, sneaky bastard! How dare you be presumptuous in front of me? A cold light flashed in Yi Shiwen's eyes. Murderous intent burst out in an instant. Shattered Star Fist! The power of the countless stars in his hand instantly condensed and turned into a huge star. Countless rays of the power of the stars turned into a long rainbow and shot out from the pores of his body, directly blasting out. Boom! That assassin was directly blasted apart by him. A Transcendent Realm 9th level expert was blasted on the spot. The assassin was not his opponent at all. These assassins walked the assassin's way, taking the strange route. The focus was on the way of deception, which was somewhat similar to Crocodile Shadow's deceitful way. The focus of their cultivation was to catch the opponent off guard. But if they were discovered, they might not even be a match for the average expert in the same realm. They hid in the air and suddenly attacked. They did not expect Yishuin to react so quickly. The Transcendent Realm 9th level expert was blasted on the spot, turning into a cloud of blood mist. Yishuin's reaction is so fast. He's too powerful. A Transcendent Realm 9th level peak assassin couldn't even block one move from him and exploded on the spot. Everyone present, without exception, was the leader of the younger generation. The weakest was already above Transcendent Realm 8th level. Among them, there were a large number of Transcendent Realm 9th level experts. Although their strength was not comparable to Bai Hanmo, Pei Xingqian, Jian Wushuang, and others, their eyesight was not bad. They could see Yishuin's terrifying strength at a glance. It's terrifying. Even if the assassin's average strength is low, he is still a Transcendent Realm 9th level expert. He can't even block one punch from him. How strong is he? Which organization's assassin is this? He dares to be presumptuous here. Does he not want to mingle in the flourished Cloud Sea region? It's a stupid organization at first glance. Making a move here is equivalent to provoking our entire flourished Cloud Sea region's forces. If any assassin organization can make a move here, what guarantee is there for our safety in the future? What's more ridiculous is that they obviously didn't investigate Yishuin's strength. 5 years ago, an ordinary Transcendent Realm 9th level expert couldn't withstand one move from him, let alone now. This Yishuin is worthy of being the top person among the younger generation. He even overshadowed Sea Dragon Young Master. With his leadership, our flourished Cloud Sea region may really have a chance to gain a lot of benefits in this Blood Realm trial. The more benefits these top geniuses obtain, the higher our status will be. To put it bluntly, the trial of the Blood World is a place where only the strong are respected. It doesn't matter how many people there are. What kind of treatment we will get will depend on these top geniuses' performance. This matter is not so simple. Which assassin organization dares to make a move at this time? Isn't that seeking death? Unless someone is supporting them, said someone slowly. Someone is supporting them? Everyone present was an elite. How could they not think of this? If there was someone who had a grudge against Yishuin and could support these assassins, it could only be the Vanishing Shadow Poisonous Crocodile Clan and Poisonous Flaming Dragon Clan. Sure enough, everyone looked at the experts of the Vanishing Shadow Poisonous Crocodile Clan and Poisonous Flaming Dragon Clan. Led by Crocodile Shadow and Flaming Young Master, both sides were not surprised at all in the face of this sudden assassination. At this time, how could everyone not understand that the backer behind these assassins was these two overlords? Now, everyone knew that Yishuin had the support of Guiyuan sect, a human overlord. Apart from these two overlords, who dared to provoke Guiyuan sect's patience at this time? Even these assassins, who appeared and disappeared mysteriously in the eyes of ordinary people, were no exception. In the eyes of ordinary people, they were mysterious. However, in the eyes of giants like Guiyuan sect, they were not much stronger than ants. They could be destroyed with a flip of their hand. How dare they be so presumptuous without anyone's support? Yishuin also thought of this at this time and looked at the two clans. The experts of these two clans saw Yishuin looking over, but they did not show any fear at all. Instead, they looked at Yishuin provocatively. Crocodile Shadow even sneered and made a throat-slitting gesture on his neck. The threat was loud and clear. However, Yishuin did not have time to find trouble with them at this time because the second wave of attacks came in a blink of an eye. Petals began to rain inexplicably in the sky. As they fell, the entire world seemed to fall into a beautiful scene. Shwa! All of a sudden, this petal shower changed in an instant, turning into a murderous sword aura. Those were just illusions. When people saw through the illusion, the sword aura had already rushed in front of Yishiwen. These sword chis were like raindrops that blotted out the sky and completely shrouded Yishiwen. Break for me! Yishiwen was not affected at all. In other words, he was cautious from the beginning. He knew that these assassins would not stop until they achieved their goal. Even if these assassin organizations looked down on him, they would not just send a Transcendent Realm 9th level expert to ambush him. They must have a backup plan. Sure enough, the backup plan appeared. The previous ambush was just to distract Yishiwen's attention. Now, the real killer move was coming. Humph! Yishiwen slapped out a golden giant hand. Fire, cloud, sky, collapsing hand! The huge palm covered the sky and directly grabbed the sword auras. Boom! 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 The sword chi exploded on the spot, but it could not shake the golden hand at all. It completely turned into a pile of ashes in midair, a cloud of resentment. Yishiwen, go to hell! A loud shout suddenly came from behind Yishiwen. He saw an incomparably dark long sword suddenly appear. It pierced through the vast sky, and directly split the sky into two halves. It instantly shrouded Yishiwen, and blasted over to kill him. This is a domain! Many experts with good eyesight saw it at once. This incomparably dark long sword was covered with the law. Wasn't it a domain? It enveloped Yishiwen in an instant. Humph! Yishiwen's complexion didn't change. He just snorted coldly. Every pore on his body was spurting out sword intention. A storm of sword intention crazily swept out, condensing into a giant sword in midair. Then, it instantly shot towards that incomparably dark long sword. In the distance, Jian Wushuang saw Yishiwen's sword intent. Suddenly, his eyes flickered, and his heart was a little restless. He always thought that Yishiwen was a saber expert, but he did not expect Yishiwen to be a swordsmanship expert. Yishiwen was able to condense this sword intent alone. It was enough to rank Yishiwen among the current swordsmanship masters. Boom! The two great swords suddenly collided fiercely in midair. The splashing brilliance seemed to penetrate the world. Time stopped at this moment. The shockwave that swept out turned into a hurricane that swept out. Ah! 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 Immediately afterward, a series of screams came from midair. A dozen black-shirted men fell from midair, spurting blood from their mouths. Their figures were like kites with broken strings, and they were directly blasted out. Just now, they teamed up to control this earth-level spiritual sword, intending to severely injure Yishiwen in one fell swoop. Who knew that Yishiwen was so terrifying? A dozen of them, Transcendent Realm 9th level peak assassins, couldn't even withstand a blow from Yishiwen. Yishiwen didn't even blink his eyes when he saw this scene. He suddenly stomped his feet, and his figure instantly turned into a mass of golden light and disappeared. When he reappeared, he was already in front of the black long sword. He directly opened his big hand and grabbed the long sword in his hand. Buzz! The black long sword in his hand began to struggle frantically in an instant, trying to break free from Yishiwen's hand. Endless sword aura continued to sweep out, but how could Yishiwen let it have its way? He directly wrapped the long sword in his hand with endless divinity. The primordial spirit that had been imprinted on it was instantly erased, and the long sword immediately became obedient. All of this took a long time to describe, but in fact, it was just an instant. In just a breath's time, Yishiwen had subdued this long sword. He raised his hand, and a shocking sword light instantly shot out, slashing across the vast sky. Compared to when it was in the hands of the dozen black-shirted men, the power was many times stronger. It even gave people a feeling that this earth-level spiritual sword was a pearl covered in dust. Boom! 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 The dozen black-shirted men were slashed into blood mist on the spot. But before Yishiwen had time to catch his breath, another sense of extreme danger instantly leaped into his heart. Chapter 1029. However, before Yishuan had time to catch his breath, another sense of extreme danger instantly rose in his heart. The feeling of being targeted instantly appeared in Yishuan's mind. Sure enough, almost instantly, a pair of gasified arms appeared in the sky. A huge longbow appeared in this pair of gasified big hands. Above the longbow, countless spiritual energy was absorbed and condensed into a long arrow. Swish! The hands on the longbow suddenly released the bowstring, and the long arrow suddenly blasted out, piercing the vast sky and coming for Yishuan. Yishuan swung his sword. Suddenly, the long sword burst into a brilliant sword light, directly slashing down on the long arrow. Boom! This chi arrow exploded on the spot and turned into a mass of airflow, but it couldn't really hurt Yishuan. But it was not over yet. The big hand blasted more and more chi arrows. Whoosh! 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 One arrow after another, the long arrow pierced the sky, and each arrow went straight for Yishuan's vital points. Swish! 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 The long sword in Yishuan's hand danced, and the sword light filled the sky, protecting his body in midair. Those chi arrows didn't even get close to Yishuan's body when they were smashed by Yishuan's sword light. They simply couldn't get close to him. This longbow was very large, and the chi arrows shot out were also very powerful. It could easily shoot a Transcendent Realm 9th level expert to death on the spot. But for Yishuan, it was nothing at all. In just an instant, the chi arrows were slashed apart. Yishuan's right hand danced with sword light to protect himself. His left hand directly grabbed towards the void, grabbing a huge chi spear in the air. The veins on his left hand bulged, and he instantly threw the chi spear out. Crash! There was a loud sound of breaking through the air. The chi spear suddenly cut through the vast sky at lightning speed, smashing the chi arrows along the way, and instantly rushed to the center of the pair of gasified big hands. The spear light burst in midair, directly shooting through the void. Ah! Suddenly, a scream came from the void, and a black figure fell from the sky. The air's spear directly pierced through his shoulder, through his collarbone, and directly crippled one of his arms. There was no way he could continue shooting arrows. A trace of fear flashed through his eyes. Even for someone like him whose heart was as calm as still water, it was still difficult for him to conceal the raging waves in his heart. These death warriors and assassins had all gone through many years of strict training. They had crawled out of mountains of corpses and seas of blood. There was nothing they hadn't seen before. Ordinary things wouldn't be able to make their expressions change. But now, he couldn't hide the horror in his heart. Yishuan was too strong. He was like a deity. He had never seen a Transcendent Realm warrior that could threaten him. Because he had long stepped into the half-step aspect realm. Due to the use of a secret technique, his development potential was very small, and his force could only be considered as weak in the same realm. However, that was only relative to the half-step law manifestation realm experts. Against the Transcendent Realm experts, he definitely had an overwhelming advantage. But now, he was being defeated by Yishuan. He couldn't threaten Yishuan at all. The horror in his heart was imaginable. At this time, everyone finally saw the figure that fell from the sky. Half-step law manifestation realm. It's actually a half-step law manifestation realm expert. At this time, some sharp-eyed people immediately recognized the black-clothed man's strength. For ordinary people, the Transcendent Realm 9th level was already the pinnacle of power they could come into contact with. Many people might even think that the Transcendent Realm 9th level was the pinnacle of power in this world. However, no matter who was present, they were all the best of the younger generation. It could even be said that there would be many Transcendence Realm experts in the future. For them, although experts half a step into the Transcendence Realm were rare, they were not unfamiliar. They quickly recognized the black-clothed man's strength. It was fine if they didn't recognize him. However, once they did, everyone was even more frightened. Although they were already the best among the Transcendent Realm experts, they were still powerless in the face of a half-step law manifestation realm expert. Even young Master Sea Dragon, Pei Xingqian, and others dared not say that they would be the opponent of a half-step law manifestation realm expert, even the weakest half-step law manifestation realm expert. They could only say that they could protect themselves against a half-step law manifestation realm expert. Self-preservation and defeat were not the same concept at all. But what did they see now? This half-step law manifestation realm assassin was defeated by Yi Shiwen. He suffered a huge loss under Yi Shiwen's hands. If he was not careful, he would be killed by Yi Shiwen on the spot. When did Yi Shiwen become so terrifying? It was unimaginable. Not to mention Flame Young Master, Crocodile Shadow, and others were shocked by Yi Shiwen's terrifying strength. Even Pei Xingqian, Unparalleled Sword, Young Master Sea Dragon, and several other geniuses who had a good relationship with Yi Shiwen looked at Yi Shiwen in disbelief. They couldn't believe that he was already so strong. "Sigh, Yi Shiwen is already ahead of us," said young Master Sea Dragon with a sigh. Unparalleled Sword and Pei Xingqian, who were next to him, nodded. They naturally knew what young Master Sea Dragon meant. Yi Shiwen's combat power had entered the half-step law manifestation realm first. Although it was only a half-step law manifestation realm, it was still linked to the law manifestation realm. Yi Shiwen could enter the law manifestation realm with just a half-step law manifestation realm. Although it was still incomparable to the law manifestation realm experts, it was not a problem to defeat the transcendent realm experts. This was also the breakthrough they had been working hard to seek. However, even with their cultivation speed, it was still not a matter of a day to enter the half-step law manifestation realm. They wanted to enter the half-step law manifestation realm in the blood world. Unexpectedly, Yi Shiwen had already taken a step ahead of them. He took the lead in entering the half-step law manifestation realm and left them behind. At this time, only Bai Hanmo could still laugh heartily and applaud Yi Shiwen loudly. "He's too strong. Is he still human? Yi Shiwen won the championship previously. I'm afraid there are still some hidden experts who are not convinced. But now, after seeing this scene, how many people still have the courage to confront him face to face? I feel that he is simply like a vicious beast in human skin. God knows what kind of adventure he had. He actually has such terrifying combat power. If he doesn't die prematurely in the future, he will at least be a law manifestation giant. He can summon the wind and rain in the flourished Cloud Sea region. TSK. Now the Vanishing Shadow Poisonous Crocodile Clan and Poisonous Flaming Dragon Clan will probably have a worse expression. The assassin they painstakingly hired is simply vulnerable in Yi Shiwen's hands. TSK. After the Blood World trial, it's hard to imagine how powerful Yi Shiwen will be. As for the other experts of the younger generation, they were even more shocked. Even in the Six Overlords, experts of the half-step transcendence realm were considered experts of high status, let alone in the second-class forces. In many forces, a half-step transcendence realm expert was almost at the level of a sect master. Now, Yi Shiwen had taken the lead to take a step. For them, the shock in their hearts was imaginable. Although they didn't seem to be far from this step, how many of them would be able to step into the half-step transcendence realm? Even in their lifetime, it would be impressive if 1/3 of them could step into the half-step transcendence realm. As for stepping into the transcendence realm, not even 1/10 of them would be able to do so. This was how cruel it was. The world of martial artists was like a pyramid. Only a small number of people could reach the top. Most people could only be the foundation of the pyramid. Humph, die! Yi Shiwen sneered and strode out directly. He caught up with the assassin of the half-step law manifestation realm in an instant. The long sword in his hand suddenly swung out a shocking sword light, tearing the sky curtain in half. It instantly slashed at the assassin of the half-step law manifestation realm. The assassin hurriedly tried to dodge. His body movement was extremely fast, a little like teleportation. Although his head-on combat ability was weaker than the average expert of the same realm, in terms of survival ability and sneak attack ability, he was far above the average person. At this time, it was completely revealed. His body showed an extremely distorted state, and he avoided the sword light. Yishuin did not care. He directly stepped out and stomped on the assassin's body. Pfft! The assassin spat out a mouthful of blood on the spot. His internal organs were about to be crushed by Yishuin's stomp. His body flew out on the spot and flew into the distance like a meteor in midair. This was the assassin using Yishuin's strength to escape directly. Just now, he had a limited number of exchanges with Yishuin, and he completely understood that the person in front of him was simply a monster. How could an ordinary person be compared to a monster? This person could only give up. Staying alive was more important than anything else. If the attack did not hit, he would escape 1,000 miles away. Want to leave? Yishuin's speed was faster than the assassin imagined. After understanding the assassin's plan in an instant, Yishuin stepped on the golden waves under his feet and immediately chased after the assassin. He directly slashed out with his sword, slashing out an amazing sword light again. Puff! The assassin was blasted by the sword light on the spot, turning into a cloud of blood mist. He, who was already severely injured by Yishuin, had no strength to avoid this attack again. Yishuin's attack was also extremely ruthless. He did not intend to show any mercy at all, nor did he intend to ask about the mastermind behind the scenes. All this was obvious. In the flourished Cloud Sea region, who else had a grudge against him and had the ability to send assassins here except for the poisonous Flaming Dragon clan and the vanishing Shadow Poisonous Crocodile clan? You're tuning into the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.